Hey guys, it's Nemo again. Just want to say, hope you enjoy these stories. Thanks for listening as always, and if you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button. We're so close to some new records, and if you enjoy the stories, a like would be just as much as appreciated. Thank you very much, and enjoy the stories.
I used to think the worst thing that could happen on a dating app was getting ghosted or matched with someone who only posted mirror pics from 5 years ago. That thought died fast. The kind of dead where it does not drift away. It just stays and rots in the back of your head. The night this started, I was standing in line at a late coffee place, scrolling out of boredom, thumb numb, brain empty, and I had no idea my face was about to stop being mine. I had just turned 19 and felt behind in everything. My friends were all pairing off, posting smiling photos in kitchens and on rooftops, while I was stuck crashing on my cousin's couch, half job, half school, no real plan. Dating apps felt like a shortcut to being normal. Swipe, match, meet, done. I matched with her because she looked calm and regular. No party pics, no fake filters, just her in thrift store clothes with a crooked smile. She messaged first, which almost never happened to me, and that alone made me feel like I had finally unlocked something. We talked for a week, mostly about nothing. Dumb videos, places around town, how the buses were always late. She seemed safe. That is the word I keep coming back to, even though I hate it now. Safe like someone who would not turn your name into something dirty. We decided to meet in a public park near the river, a spot with food trucks and string lights that flickered on at dusk. I remember telling myself that this was smart, that I was doing everything right for once. Meeting her felt normal in a way that almost bored me. She laughed at the same dumb stuff. She walked a little too fast. She complained about the noise. We sat on a concrete ledge and watched dogs drag their owners past us. I kept thinking this was how it was supposed to go. No spark fireworks. Just easy. When the sun dropped and the lights came on, she pulled out her phone and asked if we could take a photo together for memories. It felt harmless, almost sweet, like proof that this had actually happened. I hesitated for maybe half a second. I remember thinking about all those posts warning not to share photos, not to leave a trail, that I thought was being paranoid. It was one photo, her phone, in a public place with people all around. I leaned in, awkward half smile, hair doing its own thing. She snapped it quick, glanced at it, smiled, and put her phone away. That was it. No second shot, no posing. Just a moment that felt small enough to forget. We said goodbye not long after. A quick hug that felt like a question mark. I walked home feeling lighter than I had in weeks, replaying the good parts, already imagining a second hangout. When I got back to the apartment where I lived at the time, I collapsed on the couch and fell asleep with my phone still in my hand. The next morning started normal. I woke up to a buzz of notifications, which was weird because I was not popular enough for that. My phone felt heavy, like it knew something I did not yet. The first message was from a guy I'd barely talked to anymore, asking what was wrong with me. The second was from my cousin, asking if I needed help with something serious. Then I saw the missed calls. My stomach dropped before I even unlocked the screen fully. Someone had sent me a link. It led to a profile on the same app we had met on. Her name was different. Her photos were different. But the face staring back at me was mine. Not just similar. Mine. The same photo from the park, cropped just enough to look intentional, my arm around her shoulder like a claim. Under it was a long post accusing me of stalking her, of showing up places uninvited, of sending messages that scared her. Words like threat and unsafe were thrown around like facts. I'd refreshed it again and again, like it might change if I stared hard enough. Comments were already piling up. People I did not know calling me names, warning others to block me, sharing the profile across groups. Someone even added my first name, spelled wrong but close enough. I felt like I was watching a fire spread while tied to a chair. I tried to message her, but she had unmatched me. I tried reporting the profile, but the app responded with an automated message saying they were reviewing it. Hours felt like minutes, and minutes felt like years. Every buzz of my phone made my chest tighten. My social media account started filling with messages from strangers telling me to stay away from women, telling me I was lucky they did not know where I live. By noon, my part-time job texted asking me not to come in until things cleared up. They said it gently, but I knew what it meant. They had seen it. Everyone had. My face was being passed around with a warning label slapped on it, and there was nothing I could do to peel it off. I kept trying to make sense of it. I replayed the date over and over, looking for the moment I missed. The wrong look, the wrong move. There was nothing. That was the worst part. It was clean, too clean. It felt planned, like she had done this before, like I was just the next guy whose face fit what she needed. The app finally took the profile down late that night, but it did not matter. Screenshots were already everywhere. A local group chat someone added me to was filled with my own face, circled, zoomed in, mocked. Someone had dug up my old photos from years ago and lined them up like proof. I tried to explain myself in one place, typing out the truth with shaking hands, but it just made things worse. People do not want explanations. They want a villain. The days after blurred together, I stopped going out. I stopped checking my phone except to delete messages. My cousin suggested I stay somewhere else for a bit, just to let things cool down. I packed a bag and crashed with a friend across town who barely knew what to say to me. Every mirror felt hostile. Every reflection looked like someone I did not recognize anymore. I did not hear from her again. No apology, no explanation, nothing. It was like she had erased herself after using me. I'd read somewhere that false accusations fade with time, but time felt like a joke then. Even when things went quiet, the silence was loud. I knew that photo still existed somewhere, saved on phones, stored in folders, ready to resurface whenever someone felt like stirring things up again. Weeks later, a random account sent me a message saying they believed me and that they had seen the same thing happen to another guy. That did not make me feel better. It just confirmed that this was a pattern, and I had been an easy target. Someone who thought a photo for memories was harmless. Now, when I think about dating apps, my chest tightens. I still see faces, still swipe sometimes, but my own face feels like borrowed property, something that can be taken, twisted, and handed back broken. I never got closure. The story about me is still floating out there, half true in the way lies like to be, wearing my smile like a mask. I did not feel excited when I woke up that morning, but I felt awake in a sharp way, like my brain had already started pacing before my body caught up. The kind of day where everything feels slightly louder and brighter for no reason. I remember staring at the ceiling and thinking that I should cancel. Not because he gave me bad vibes exactly, but because he was too organized about everything, too sure. Some people float through plans. He locked them down. We matched on a dating app I barely used anymore. I had deleted it twice before and always came back out of boredom. His profile was clean, almost empty. No group photos, no jokes. Just a face that looked safe enough and a bio that said he liked routine. That word stuck with me. Routine feels calm until you realize it means control. He messaged first and kept things short, which I liked. No oversharing, no late night spirals. When it came time to meet, he insisted on a cafe downtown. Not suggested, insisted, but wrapped in politeness. He picked the place, the time, even the corner of the cafe where he said it would be quieter. I told myself I was being dramatic. People like to plan. I picked an outfit that did not look like I was trying, even though I was. When I left my apartment where I live alone, the hallway light flickered, and I laughed at myself for taking it as a sign. I had read too many stories online. The cafe was one of those places that pretends to be casual, but is actually curated down to the dust on the shelves. Plants everywhere, long wooden tables, chalkboard menu with handwriting that tried too hard. When I walked in, the smell of coffee hit me heavy and sweet. It was busy for a weekday afternoon, which made me feel better at first. Crowds mean safety. That is what everyone says. He was already there, sitting exactly where he said he would be. Not waving, just watching the door. When he saw me, his face lit up in a way that felt practiced. We ordered drinks and sat down, and for the first few minutes, it felt normal. Boring even. He talked about his job. I talked about school. My shoulders dropped a little. I started thinking maybe I had imagined the tension. Then little things started stacking up. Nothing dramatic, just odd. The barista called his name without asking for it. A guy at the counter nodded at him like they had a shared joke. A girl passed our table and touched his shoulder lightly as she walked by, not even looking at him. He did not react to any of it. He just kept talking, eyes on me, voice steady. I tried to ignore it, but my attention kept drifting. Every few minutes, someone else would glance over, not at me, at him, like checking in, like making sure he was still there. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe he came here a lot. Maybe this was his spot. Still, my stomach felt tight, like I had skipped a step somewhere. Halfway through our drinks, he mentioned that he liked this cafe because it felt like home. He said it casually, but it landed heavy. I started really looking around instead of pretending. The guy refilling the pastry case laughed at something he said from across the room. The woman wiping tables paused near us longer than needed. I noticed a group of people near the window who all looked over at the same time when he leaned back in his chair. I asked him how long he had been coming here. He answered without thinking, like the question was obvious. Years. Before I could stop myself, I asked if he worked here. He smiled and shook his head, then said not exactly. That was when my skin started to crawl in a slow, quiet way. Not panic, just awareness. He excused himself to use the bathroom, leaving his jacket on the chair. The second he stood up, the room changed. It was subtle, but I felt it. Like the air shifted direction. People started moving again. Conversations resumed. I watched him walk to the back, and as he passed tables, more people acknowledged him. Not just friendly nods, familiar ones, like he belonged to them. While he was gone, a woman from the window group slid into the seat across from me without asking. She smiled like we already knew each other. She asked if I was new. Not new to the cafe, new to him. My mouth went dry. Before I could answer, she said she hoped I liked the place because he always brought people here first. Then she stood up and walked away. My heart was pounding now, but I forced myself to stay still. I scanned the room harder. Patterns started forming. The barista wore a pin from the same company logo he had mentioned earlier. Two people near the door were wearing matching lanyards. A guy hunched over a laptop glanced up and locked eyes with me for a second too long, then looked away fast when I noticed. When he came back, I asked him who she was. He looked confused for half a second, then said she was a friend. Just a friend. The way he said it felt rehearsed. I asked how many friends he had here. He laughed softly and said more than most people realize. I laughed too, because I did not know what else to do, but my hands were shaking under the table. The rest of the date felt stretched, like time was being pulled thin. Every story he told now had a shadow. When he talked about his job, I noticed more people with that same logo. When he mentioned his roommate, a guy near the counter raised his eyebrows at me like he was in on something. I started counting exits. There were two. One near the bathroom, one by the counter. Both felt far. I tried to ground myself by focusing on details. The hum of the espresso machine, the clink of cups, the smell of burnt milk. But it all blurred together. It felt like I had walked into a room where everyone had read the same script except me. I was the only one improvising. At one point, my phone buzzed. A notification from the app. It said he had updated his profile location to the cafe. I stared at the screen, then at him, then around the room. It hit me all at once that this was not just a meeting place. This was a network, a stage. I was not meeting him. I was being introduced. I stood up suddenly, mumbling something about needing air. Heads turned. Not all at once, but enough. He stood too fast, reaching for his jacket. I felt trapped in a polite nightmare. I walked toward the door, heart racing, expecting someone to block me, but no one did. They just watched. All of them. Watching me leave at the end of a show. Outside, the noise of the street crashed over me, messy and loud and real. I did not look back. I walked until my legs burned. When I finally checked my phone again, I had 3 messages from him asking if I was okay. I did not answer. I unmatched, deleted the app, and sat on a curb trying to slow my breathing. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. I searched the cafe online. Photos, reviews, tagged posts. His face was in so many of them. Group shots, work parties, birthdays. Always in the background, sometimes front and center. Always watching the camera. I realized then that I had never been alone with him for a single second. I went to sleep with my lights on. The next day, I had passed that cafe on the bus and felt my chest tighten. Nothing happened after that. No messages, no follow-up, no escalation. Just the knowledge that for one afternoon, I walked into a place where everyone already knew him, and somehow that included me. I used to think nothing serious ever started on a cracked phone screen at 2 in the morning, but that is exactly where this started. I was half awake, thumb sliding out of habit, brain on low power mode, telling myself I would delete the app again soon. I had said that a lot. It always felt easier to stay than to leave. When I matched with her, nothing stood out except how normal she seemed. Not flashy, not dramatic, just someone who looked like they blended into crowds. The first thing I noticed was how careful she typed. Not slow, just precise. Every message felt weighed before it landed. No typos, no rambling. I did not think much of it at first. I liked that she asked questions. Most people just talk about themselves and wait for you to react. She wanted details, not emotional ones, practical ones, where I worked, how long I had lived in the city, whether I rented or stayed with someone else, all stuff that felt harmless on its own. We talked for about a week before meeting. During that time, the questions got stranger, but not strange enough to stop me. She asked how I handled disagreements, what I thought counted as crossing a line, whether I believed promises mattered if they were said casually. I remember joking to myself that it felt like a job interview mixed with a philosophy class. Still, she laughed at my dumb comments, sent memes, kept things light between the heavier stuff. We met at a small bar attached to a bowling alley on the edge of town. Loud enough that no one could really hear you, dim enough to hide nerves. I liked places like that. They felt temporary. We grabbed drinks and sat at one of the sticky tables near the lanes. She looked exactly like her photos, which already put me at ease. No weird surprises, no awkward energy, just calm. The date started normal, talking about music, about bad jobs, about how weird the city felt lately. Then she started slipping in those questions again. Not all at once, spaced out. She asked what I would do if someone accused me of something I did not do. She asked how I felt about written agreements between people who were not married. She asked whether saying something once counted the same as agreeing to it later. I answered honestly but casually. I treated it like a game. I remember leaning back in my chair, watching the lanes light up, thinking this was kind of refreshing. Someone actually listening. She nodded a lot. Sometimes she would pause before reacting, like she was saving the moment instead of responding to it. At one point, she pulled out her phone and placed it face down on the table. She said it was so she would not get distracted. I did not think twice about it. People say that all the time. I kept talking. About how I hated conflict. About how I tried to be fair. About how I believed context mattered more than exact wording. All the stuff you say when you want to sound reasonable. We stayed for a while. Long enough that the crowd changed twice. When we finally left, it felt unfinished in a good way. But there would be a next time. She hugged me, thanked me for being open, and said she liked how clearly I explained things. That stuck with me. I walked home smiling, replaying parts of the night, already planning what we might do next. We kept seeing each other. Coffee walks, one more bar. Nothing physical beyond casual closeness. She never pushed. If anything, she kept distance. The questions kept coming, though, always framed as curiosity. She asked what I thought counted as consent in everyday situations. Not in a graphic way, just theoretical. She asked whether changing your mind after agreeing to something felt dishonest. She asked how I defined pressure. Sometimes she would ask me to repeat myself, saying she liked how I phrased something earlier. I would laugh and paraphrase, not thinking about how close it was to my original words. Once I noticed her phone on the table again, face down, but this time with a small red light glowing near the edge. I asked about it, and she said it was broken. I believed her. After a few weeks, things cooled off. Not dramatically, just less frequent messages. Shorter replies. I assumed she lost interest. That happens. I did not push. I had other stuff going on. Work stress, family things. I barely thought about her until the envelope showed up. It came on a Tuesday, wedged under my door. Thick paper, official looking. My name typed clean across the front. I stood there staring at it for a full minute before picking it up. My first thought was that it was a mistake. Wrong address. Wrong person. When I had opened it, my hand started shaking so hard I had to sit down on the floor. It was legal paperwork, formal language, dense paragraphs. My name appeared again and again. Dates I recognized, locations I recognized. Then I saw it. Lines quoted in quotation marks, sentences pulled straight from my memory. Things I had said leaning back in a bowling alley chair. Things I had said while stirring ice in a cup, word for word. My phrasing, my pauses even noted. I kept read the same page over and over, hoping it would change. It did not. The document claimed I had made statements that implied agreement, intent, acknowledgement. It said these statements were recorded. It said they would be presented as evidence. Evidence of something I did not even fully understand yet. My chest felt hollow. Not pain, just empty. I sat there on the floor until my legs went numb. I tried to remember every moment with her, every question, every time she nodded, every time she asked me to explain further. It all rearranged itself into something ugly. I called the number listed on the papers and left a message, barely getting my name out. I tried calling her, straight to voicemail. I checked the app. Her profile was gone, like it had never existed. I searched her name online and found nothing. No social accounts, no photos, nothing that linked back to her except my own memory. Over the next few days, more paperwork came. Timelines, summaries, attachments. One of them included a transcript, not just quotes, but descriptions of tone, pauses, emphasis. It was like someone had been sitting between us the entire time, invisible, documenting everything. I realized then that the face-down phone had never been about distraction. I stopped sleeping. Every sound in my apartment made me jump. I replayed my words constantly, trying to hear how they could be twisted. I started doubting my own memory. Did I say it like that? Did I really agree? Did I laugh at the wrong time? The more I thought, the less solid anything felt. I met with a lawyer who told me to stop talking about it, to stop trying to explain myself, to let the process run. Those words did not help. The process felt like a machine that had already swallowed me. Everything I had said casually, openly, was now frozen in ink. Weeks passed. Things moved slowly and too fast. Meetings, documents, long silences followed by sudden updates. I barely recognized my own life. I still went to work, still bought groceries. But everything felt staged, like I was watching myself from far away. One night, I sat in my kitchen and laid all the papers out on the table. I noticed something then. Every quote, every line. They all came from moments when I was trying to be thoughtful, careful, honest. The parts of me I had been proud of were now arranged into something dangerous. I'd never heard from her again. Not directly. Not indirectly. She existed only in documents and memory. The case eventually narrowed. Some parts were dropped. Others lingered. I will not get into how it ended because the ending was not the scary part. The scary part was realizing that for weeks I had been talking freely to someone who was not getting to know me. She was collecting me. My words, my patterns, my logic. I had walked into it smiling, thinking I was just on another date, saying things that felt harmless because they were true. Now, when I think back to that first night, I remember the way she nodded, the way she paused, the way she asked me to repeat myself. I remember the phone on the table, face down, quiet and patient. I remember how safe I felt talking. The night it clicked for me did not start scary. It started boring. I was tired in the lazy way, not the alert way. The kind of tired where you miss your stop and do not even get mad about it. My phone was at 5%, my headphones were dead, and I was just walking because that was easier than thinking. Then my phone buzzed, and the words on the screen made the sidewalk feel tilted. We had matched maybe 10 days earlier. I cannot even remember why I swiped right. He did not stand out. Plain face, plain bio, plain tone. I think I liked that he did not try. No big personality, no jokes that felt copied. Just normal. After a while, normal feels rare enough to trust. Our chats were steady. Not intense, not dry. Just something to check while waiting in line or sitting on the bus. He never pushed to meet, which made me feel like he had boundaries. When we did meet, it was a casual place near my campus, early evening, lots of people coming and going. I remember thinking that he blended in well, like someone who could stand in any crowd and not pull attention. Nothing weird happened on the date. That is important. If something big had happened, I would have listened to it. Instead, it was all small. He remembered my coffee order. He noticed when I tucked my hair behind my ear. He asked questions but did not dig. When we left, he walked the opposite direction and waved once, and that was it. The first message that bothered me came 2 days later. I had told him I was heading home after a late study session. Nothing else. He replied that I should probably cut through the street behind the old gym because the main road always felt sketchy at that hour. I stopped walking. I stood there long enough that someone brushed past me and gave me a look. I had never told him about the gym. Not its location, not that I passed it, not that it existed. I had never posted about it. I told myself it was a guess. Lots of people know that road. I replied with a neutral message and kept going, heart tapping faster than my steps. The next time it happened, I was less calm. I mentioned being on my way back from work, and he said I should avoid the crosswalk near the pharmacy because the light took forever and drivers never paid attention there. That crosswalk was not even on my usual route. It was something I used when it rained because it had an awning nearby. I checked my messages again, making sure I had not accidentally shared my location. I had not. My socials were locked down. No stories, no check-ins. I had learned early to be careful. That was what made this feel wrong. It slipped past the rules I thought kept me safe. I asked him how he knew that spot. He replied like it was nothing, saying he just noticed patterns in the city. That answer felt empty. It did not explain why his patterns lined up with mine. After that, I started paying attention in a new way. I noticed how his messages lined up with my movement. If I said I was leaving late, he would mention the quiet stretch near the closed diner. If I complained about my feet, he suggested the bench near the bus stop with the cracked ad panel. He knew the exact places I slowed down. I tried to test it. One night, I took a completely different route. Longer, louder, full of traffic. I did not mention it. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. He said the shortcut by the loading dock smelled bad anyway, so I was probably better off sticking to the main road. My hands went cold. That shortcut was a different route. The one I had not used in weeks. The one I had decided on 5 minutes earlier without telling anyone. I stood at the corner pretending to tie my shoe, watching reflections in parked cars. No one stood out. Everyone stood out. I read our old messages like they were a map. Little things jumped out. Times he said good luck right before my hardest class ended. Moments he asked if I got home safe before I said I was on my way. Once he commented on the music festival noise outside my place, something I had only heard with my own windows open. We met again in daylight because I wanted to see him in a controlled space, a park near downtown. Families, dogs, runners. I felt safer there. He acted the same as always, relaxed, polite, like nothing was off. Then as we walked, he casually pointed out that if I cut behind the playground fence, I could shave a few minutes off my walk back. That path was barely a path. It was dirt and weeds and something you only learned after getting lost once. I had found it by accident months earlier and only used it when I was late. I felt my face go hot. I laughed because that was easier than freezing. I went home a different way again. Every time I changed my routine, he seemed to adjust with me, like water finding a shape. I stopped messaging him when I walked. I waited until I was inside my apartment, where I live alone, door locked, shoes off, heart still racing. Even then, he knew. One night, he messaged asking if the stairwell light was still flickering. That was inside my building. Not visible from the street. Not something you noticed unless you climbed those stairs, annoyed, counting steps. I did not reply. I sat on my bed with my phone in my hand, trying to think of a normal explanation. There was none that fit without stretching into something worse. I started noticing things outside. A car parked too long. Footsteps that slowed when I slowed. Nothing I could prove. Everything I could feel. I told a friend. Saying it out loud made it sound smaller, but my friend went quiet instead of laughing. She said it was not normal. Hearing that helped more than anything else. I blocked him on the app. Blocked his number. Blocked everything. For 2 days, nothing happened. I started to relax. Then on the third day, I saw him. He stood across the street from the grocery store I used most. Not close, not hiding, just there, scrolling on his phone, exactly where my old route would have taken me at that time. He did not look up. He did not wave. He did not follow. He just stood in the place he knew I would be. I crossed the street without thinking. My heart hammered so loud I thought other people could hear it. I walked fast, then faster, then broke into a jog even though my bag was heavy. When I finally looked back, he was gone. I changed everything after that, my schedule, my routes, my grocery store. I started walking with friends when I could. I took buses in the wrong direction and looped back. I did not see him again. Not clearly. Not like that. Weeks passed, then months. Life filled back in, uneven but real. Sometimes I still feel watched when I turn a corner too fast. Sometimes I still hesitate before taking any shortcut, even ones I have used for years. My phone stays in my hand longer than it used to. I never got proof, nothing to show anyone official. Just patterns and timing and a growing sense that someone had been learning me without my permission. Someone who knew my turns before I made them. The first thing that went wrong was how easy it felt to complain. Not dramatic complaining, just the tired kind that leaks out when someone finally asks the right question. I did not even realize I had been holding it in until she nudged it loose. That is the part that messes with me now. It did not feel risky. It felt normal, safe, like leaning against a wall you assume is solid. We matched on a dating app I only checked when I was half asleep. Her profile looked chill. Messy room selfies, jokes about bad coffee, and nothing polished. She felt real in a way that made me drop my guard fast. Our chats were steady, not intense. She did not flirt much. Mostly she listened. I remember thinking it felt more like talking to a friend than a stranger. I was working a job I hated but needed. Warehouse-type place. Long hours, weird schedules, manager who acted like every tiny mistake was personal. I'd never talked about work much on dates because it always killed the mood. But one night, after a rough shift, she asked why I sounded off. Not what happened, just why. That cracked something open. I started venting in small pieces. Nothing wild at first. Just how my boss talked down to everyone. How schedules changed last minute. How it felt like no matter what you did, it was wrong. She encouraged it in a calm way. Said it was healthy to get it out. Said holding it in only made it worse. I remember lying on my bed where I live, phone warm in my hand, finally feeling understood. Over the next few days, it became a pattern. Bad shift, message her. She would ask follow-up questions. What exactly did he say? How did that make you feel? Did he single you out or treat everyone like that? It felt therapeutic, like journaling, but with reactions. I typed fast, sometimes sloppy, sometimes angry, but I never said anything I would not say out loud to a friend. At least that is what I thought. One night, I got more detailed. I was exhausted and irritated and did not filter myself well. I talked about how fake he was, how he smiled in meetings and snapped on the floor, how I thought he enjoyed having power over people who needed the paycheck. I did not threaten anything. I did not say anything violent, just raw frustration. I remember pausing before hitting send on one long message, then shrugging and sending it anyway. She replied with empathy, said I deserved better, said bosses like that thrived on silence. She said sometimes putting things in writing helped you see patterns. That line stuck with me. Putting things in writing. I did not think twice about it then. A few days later, she went quiet. Not ghosting exactly, just slower replies. I figured she got busy or lost interest. It happens. I did not push. Work stayed awful. I kept my head down, counting days, trying not to explode. Then my boss asked me to step into his office. It was mid-shift. No warning. That alone made my stomach flip. I followed him down the narrow hallway, trying to replay everything I had done wrong recently. Late by 2 minutes. Forgot to lock a break. Nothing major. His office smelled like stale coffee and printer ink. He closed the door and sat down slower than usual. He turned his monitor toward me. On the screen were screenshots of messages, my words, exact phrasing, the typos, the shorthand. Even the timestamps lined up with nights I remember typing in the dark. My chest went cold so fast it felt fake, like I was watching someone else get confronted. The screenshots were framed like proof, my name cropped in the corner, my words highlighted, comments about him circled. I recognized every sentence because they came straight from my phone, but I had never sent them to him, never emailed, never posted, never forwarded anything. He asked where these came from. He asked why I thought it was okay to talk about him like that. He asked if I understood how serious it was. His voice was calm, which somehow made it worse. I could barely process the questions because my brain was stuck on one thing. How? I told him I never sent those to anyone at work, that they were private messages, that they were taken out of context. My voice sounded far away like it was coming from another room. He said context did not matter. He said intent did. He said screenshots do not lie. The meeting ended with a warning. Not fired. Not yet. But everything changed. People started acting weird. Conversations stopped when I walked in. My schedule got worse. The pressure ramped up. I felt watched in a new way, like my thoughts were not mine anymore. That night, I scrolled back through my chat with her. The messages were still there, unchanged, nothing forwarded, nothing missing. No sign they had gone anywhere else. I checked my phone settings. No weird app permissions. Nothing obvious. I checked my email, my socials. Nothing. I messaged her, asking if she had shared anything. No reply. I waited, refreshed. Waited more. Eventually, I checked the app. Her profile was gone, unmatched, like she had never been there. I barely slept. My mind kept replaying every message I had typed, every sentence I had trusted someone with. I wondered if I had been careless, if I had accidentally sent something somewhere without realizing. But the screenshots were not from work platforms. They were cropped exactly like the chat app we used. Same font, same bubble shape. The next day at work, my boss pulled me aside again. This time, he mentioned that more screenshots existed, ones he had not shown me yet. He said it depended on how things went from here. The implications sat heavy in my chest all day. I started asking around without being obvious. I mentioned dating apps, gossip, leaks. No one knew anything. Or if they did, they were not saying. I felt paranoid and stupid and exposed all at once. At home, I sat on my bed and read the conversation again, line by line. That is when I noticed something small. After some of my longer events, there were moments where she did not reply right away, sometimes hours, sometimes a full day. I had assumed she was busy. Now it felt different, like processing time. I Googled her username. Nothing. Reverse image search. Nothing. The photos could have been anyone. Generic backgrounds. No identifying details. I realized how little I actually knew about her. No last name. No workplace. No socials linked. Just a voice that made me feel heard. Work became unbearable. Every mistake felt amplified. Every glance felt loaded. I started writing notes to myself instead of venting to anyone. I trusted nothing digital. I felt like anything I typed could escape. Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, my boss called me in again. This time, he seemed almost bored. He said things had settled. Said there would be no further action as long as I kept things professional. He slid a paper across the desk. A printed screenshot. One I had not seen before. It was a message where I joked about quitting. Not serious. Not a threat. Just tired humor. Seeing it printed, stripped of tone, made it look ugly. Final. He kept the paper. I walked out feeling smaller than I ever had. I quit that job a month later. Found something else. Lower pay. Less stress. I never heard from her again. Never found proof of how she did it. Maybe she knew someone. Maybe she worked there. Maybe she was fishing for dirt from the start. All I know is that she never once told me to calm down or stop talking. She kept encouraging me to put it in writing. Sometimes, late at night, I open old chats just to make sure nothing else has moved without me noticing. Everything stays where it should be, but the trust does not come back. I still think about how easy it was, how fast I handed over my worst thoughts because someone asked gently, because someone made it feel safe, because I assumed private meant contained. The thing that still messes with me is that the worst part did not feel loud or dramatic. It felt polite. It felt slow. It felt like one of those moments where you know something is wrong, but you cannot explain it fast enough to stop it. The memory always starts the same way, with my phone screen going dark and my own reflection staring back at me like I had just made a dumb mistake I could not undo. We matched on a dating app during a week where everything in my life felt flat. School was dragging. My friends were busy. Nights blurred together. His profile did not jump out at me, which is probably why I liked it. Normal photos, soft smile, nothing flashy. He talked about liking long drives and quiet conversations, which sounded calm instead of chaotic. I wanted calm. Our messages were steady but not intense. He talked a lot about being intentional, about how people never really listen anymore. He hated phones, said they ruined connection. I remember thinking it was kind of dramatic, but also a little charming. When he suggested we hang out, he offered to drive since I mentioned my car was acting weird. I told a friend his name, sent a screenshot, did all the usual safety stuff. He picked me up just after sunset. The sky was still light enough that everything looked soft instead of dark. His car was older but clean. Nothing sketchy. He asked where I wanted to go, then suggested a place himself, a spot near the edge of town with food trucks that closed late. I agreed because it sounded public enough. The drive there was fine. Music low. Windows down. He talked about random stuff, his job, his favorite roads. I noticed he liked driving slow, like he was stretching the time. When we parked, the trucks were already packing up, lights off. The place looked empty in a disappointing way. He laughed it off and said we could just sit for a bit and talk. We stayed in the car, engine off, night settling in around us. It felt awkward but manageable. I checked my phone out of habit, scrolling without really looking. That is when he brought it up. He said it would be nice if I turned my phone off so we could actually be present. Not silenced. Off. I hesitated. I laughed a little, because that is what I do when I am unsure. He leaned back and talked about how rare it was to just exist without notifications, how freeing it felt. He said he always did it on drives. He made it sound thoughtful, like a challenge he was inviting me into. I told myself I was in a parked car in a public lot, with someone who had not given me a reason not to trust him. I powered my phone down and placed it in the console. The screen went black, and for a second, the car felt quieter than it had before. We talked for maybe a minute after that. I do not remember what about. My brain does not keep that part. What I remember is the sound. The click. Soft but clear. Both doors locking at once. My body reacted before my thoughts did. My shoulders tensed. My hand moved toward the door handle. It did not open. I tried again slower, like maybe I had imagined it. Nothing. I felt heat rush up my neck, that warning feeling you get right before panic. I reached for my phone. He moved his hand, not grabbing me, just placing it over the console like a barrier. His movement was calm, which made everything worse. He said something about staying present, about not breaking the moment. His voice stayed even, like this was all part of the plan. I told him I wanted my phone. I felt my voice shake even though I tried to keep it steady. He did not raise his voice. He did not get angry. He just stayed still, blocking the phone, like this was a test, and he was waiting to see how I would react. I tried the lock on my side. It flipped back immediately. That same quiet click, controlled, intentional. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The car suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closer than they had been seconds before. I started thinking in pieces instead of sentences. Keys, horn, window. I tried the window button. It moved down an inch and stopped. Child lock. I had not noticed it before. He turned the engine on then. The dashboard lights flared, lighting up his face, calm and focused. The radio stayed off. The sound of the engine filled the space like it was there to drown out everything else. He talked about trust, about how fear was a reaction people had when they lost control. His words blurred together. All I could focus on was the fact that I was locked in. Time stretched in a weird way. I do not know how long it lasted. Long enough that my hands went numb. Long enough that I started feeling unreal, like I was watching myself from above. Finally, without warning, he reached down and unlocked the doors. The sound was loud this time, sharp and final. I did not wait. I grabbed my phone, turned it on with shaking fingers, and opened the door. Cold air rushed in, grounding me just enough to move. I stepped out of the car, legs weak, balance off, like I had just gotten off a ride I did not sign up for. He got out too, saying it was a misunderstanding, that he thought I would like the challenge. His face looked annoyed now, not worried, like I had failed something he expected me to pass. I backed away, putting space between us, my phone fully on now, screen lighting up with missed alerts. I told him I was leaving. I walked toward the road, heart racing, not caring where I was going as long as it was away from him. He did not follow. He stood by his car, watching me like he was deciding whether it was worth it. I walked until my legs hurt. I turned my phone location back on and shared it with a friend, hands still shaking. A car slowed near me and asked if I needed help. I said yes without thinking and got in, checking the locks twice before sitting down. When I got back to my apartment where I live, I locked the door and slid down against it, phone pressed to my chest. I sat there for a long time, letting the adrenaline fade in waves. My phone showed the location share had stopped when I turned it off earlier. That part made my stomach twist all over again. He messaged me the next day like nothing had happened. Said he hoped I got home safe. Said he thought the night was going well until I left suddenly. Seeing that made my hands shake harder than they had in the car. I blocked him without responding. Unmatched. Deleted the app again. Nothing else happened. No follow-ups. No apologies. No threats. The quiet after felt heavy, like proof that he got what he wanted from that moment. Control, even briefly. Now, every time I get into a car that is not mine, I listen. I notice the locks. I keep my phone on. Always. I do not let anyone frame fear as a lesson ever again. The first sign that this was going to get ugly came way before the bill ever showed up, but I did not see it then. I only see it now when I replay the night in the wrong order, like starting at the ending and rewinding frame by frame until I hit the moment I should have left. Back then, it just felt like another awkward date story that would fade into nothing. I had no idea it was about to crawl into my bank app, my inbox, and my sleep. We matched on a dating app during a week where I was saying yes to everything just to feel busy. Her profile felt blunt in a way I liked. No fake smiles, no overdone captions. She said she hated being owed anything and believed everything should be even. That stood out to me because it felt mature. I was tired of weird power stuff around money. Splitting things felt simple, clean. We messaged for a few days, nothing intense. She was quick with replies, sarcastic in a dry way. When we decided to meet, she picked a place. A mid-range restaurant downtown. Nothing fancy, nothing cheap. When I checked the menu online, I noticed most dishes were around $24 to $32. I was fine with that. I had budgeted. I always did. The night of the date, I got there early and grabbed a table near the window. She showed up right on time, sat down without hesitation, and immediately commented on how loud the place was. She talked fast, like she was trying to get through the small talk quickly. I matched her pace, figuring that was her style. Dinner itself was not bad. Not great, not terrible. Just a lot of talking without much warmth. She ordered confidently. An appetizer, a main, a drink. I ordered something cheaper without thinking about it. Not to save money, just because I was not that hungry. She noticed and commented on it, not negatively, just observational. Halfway through, she brought up the bill. Not jokingly, directly. She said she always split evenly and hated when people made it weird. I agreed immediately. I had no issue with that. I said I preferred it that way too. She seemed relieved, like she had been waiting for that answer. When the check came, it totaled $96. We split it down the middle, $48 each. No awkward pause. No hesitation. She pulled out her card first and placed it on the tray, then looked at me like it was my turn to confirm. I nodded. The server processed it, brought back the receipt, and that was that. Clean. Done. We stood up, gathered our things, and walked out together. Outside, she said she had an early morning and was heading home. I walked her to the corner because it was on my way. We stopped under a streetlight, did the usual quick goodbye, and went our separate ways. No hug. No plan for next time. It felt like a mutual understanding that it was over. I went home to my apartment where I live. kicked off my shoes, and forgot about her almost immediately. It felt like one of those dates that just ends quietly. No harm, no drama. 2 days later, I got a notification from my bank. A charge dispute had been opened for $48. The description listed the restaurant name and the date. My stomach dropped. I opened the app, thinking it had to be a mistake. Maybe the restaurant double charged her. Then I saw the reason selected. It said the charge was made under pressure. I stared at my phone for a long time. Pressure. That word felt unreal attached to a dinner bill. I checked my email next. There was a message from my bank asking for more information, saying the merchant was disputing the claim and my account was temporarily flagged until it was resolved. I used to think I had two versions of myself. The one people saw, and the one I kept tucked away where nobody could poke it. Not like some dramatic secret life, just the private stuff. The messy thoughts. The embarrassing fears. The things you type at 1:13 in the morning when you are tired of pretending you are fine. I had a place for that version of me, and I trusted it more than I trusted most actual humans. Then one random guy from a dating app proved I was basically trusting a cardboard lock. It started normal enough, which is always how these stories start, and I hate that. I matched with him on a week where I was swiping out of boredom between classes. He looked harmless. Not super cute, not ugly, just like someone you would forget you saw 5 minutes later. His profile was simple. A couple photos, no long speech about his personality, no weird angry stuff. When he messaged, it was calm. Not flirty in an annoying way, just steady. We talked for a bit, and he seemed easy to talk to. He asked questions that made sense, like what I was into, what kind of music I liked, what I did on weekends. Nothing that made me feel like I was being inspected. I felt relaxed, which already should have been my warning sign because I do not relax that fast around strangers. But I did. We picked a place to meet that was public and loud, a late-night diner with sticky booths and bright lights that make everyone look a little tired. I liked it because it felt too open for anything weird to happen. People everywhere, staff walking around, music playing, the whole place smelling like fries and burnt coffee. I met him outside and we went in together. The first part of the date was honestly fine. He was a little quieter in person, but not in a scary way. He listened more than he talked. He did not stare at my body like some guys do. He kept his hands to himself. I started thinking I might actually see him again. Then he said something small that hit me like a slap, even though it was not loud or rude. He casually brought up this specific feeling I had posted about in my private support group. Not just the general topic, but the exact detail that made it mine. Like the weird way I described my chest feeling tight, not like panic, more like a heavy seatbelt. I had used that exact comparison in the group because it felt stupid and I thought nobody outside the group would ever understand it. My brain did this glitchy thing where it tried to explain it away before I even reacted. Maybe I mentioned it in our messages. Maybe I posted something similar somewhere public. Maybe it is a common phrase, but it was not common and I had not mentioned it to him. I knew that for sure because I barely talked about that stuff to anyone. I kept my face neutral, like I did not notice. I hate that I did that, but I have always been the type to freeze and pretend. He kept talking like it was normal, like he had just referenced a movie we both watched. He said it with that casual tone people use when they think they are connecting with you. My stomach dropped deeper when he added another detail. One of my posts in that group was under a fake name, like a username that had nothing to do with me. I used it because the group was supposed to be private, but I still did not want anyone recognizing me. I had written about something that happened with a friend, and I had changed tiny details so nobody could figure out who I was. Still, the post felt like mine because of the way I wrote it. And he mentioned it. Not the whole thing, just one line that nobody would say unless they had actually seen it. I felt my throat go dry. My hands were under the table, and I could feel them shaking like tiny tremors in my fingers. I tried to breathe slow. I tried to listen for the normal diner sounds to ground myself. Plates clinking, somebody laughing at another table, a kid whining, the doorbell sound when someone walked in. I needed normal because my brain was trying to run away. He was still acting chill, like nothing was happening. He talked about mental health like he knew all the right words. He said the kind of stuff that sounds supportive but also weirdly rehearsed. He kept dropping these little references like breadcrumbs, and each one landed closer to the center of me. The messed up part was that he never said the name of the group. He did not say he had seen it. He did not say he was in it. He just kept mentioning things that prove he was. It felt like he was showing off without admitting it. Like he wanted me to know he had access, but he wanted me to be the one to say it first. I kept smiling in this fake way like I was just listening. Inside my head, I was running through every possible way he could have gotten in. The group was supposed to be private. You had to answer questions to join. You had to agree to rules. You had to be approved. It was not some public page you could stumble across. I had joined months ago after a really bad week, and it honestly helped me. People were kind in a way that felt rare. I had posted stuff there that I would never post anywhere else. I started thinking about what I had shared. I had talked about my schedule sometimes, not directly, but enough that someone could connect it. I had talked about my neighborhood in vague ways. I had talked about my family in a way that probably sounded anonymous, but maybe it was not as anonymous as I thought. I had shared the tiny habits I do when I am anxious. I had shared the nickname my sister calls me, and that nickname was not common. It was stupid and personal, and it made my stomach twist because I realized he could know it too. I excused myself to go to the bathroom, mostly because I needed space to think. The bathroom was gross, like most diner bathrooms, but I did not care. I leaned over the sink and stared at my own face. I looked normal. I looked like any other girl trying to get through a date, but my eyes looked raw and too wide, like I had just seen something I could not unsee. I took out my phone and checked the support group. I scrolled fast. My hands were shaking, so I almost dropped my phone. I checked the member list, but it was huge and the app made it hard to search. I tried anyway. Nothing obvious. No profile with his name, but people in groups rarely use their real names. I checked recent posts, looking for anything that seemed off, like someone fishing for info. I noticed a new account had been commenting a lot lately, always supportive, always asking follow-up questions. It had a generic profile picture. It had joined recently. I had not paid attention before because it did not feel threatening. It just felt helpful. My chest went tight again, that seatbelt feeling I hated. I felt stupid for ever thinking a private group online was actually private. Private just means closed door, and closed doors still have keys. I went back to the table and tried to end the date without making it obvious. I wanted to leave without starting anything. The whole time, he watched me in this calm way, like he could tell I was trying to pull back. He did not look angry. He looked curious, like he was studying what happens when you poke something and it flinches. As we walked out, he mentioned one more thing. Something I had only typed in the group once, late at night, under my fake name, about how I always count steps on stairs when I am stressed. He said it like it was cute, like a fun detail, like he knew me deeply. I felt sick. I got home to my place where I live and locked the door, then locked it again like that would fix anything. I sat on the floor by my bed and opened the group on my phone. I started going through my old posts, seeing them like evidence instead of relief. I noticed how much I had given away, how many little clues I had sprinkled without thinking. I could not even delete some of them because people had replied, and deleting would break threads. Also, deleting does not erase screenshots. I knew that now. I had read enough horror stories to know. I messaged the moderators without saying too much, just that I thought someone was in the group who should not be. I asked if they could review new members. I asked if they could tighten approvals. My message sounded dramatic even to me, but I hit send anyway. Then I blocked him on the dating app, blocked his number, blocked his socials, even though I barely had any info. I changed my profile pictures. I changed my usernames. I turned off anything location related. I did all the stuff people tell you to do after the fact, like closing the barn door after the horse already ran down the street. The next day, he messaged from a different number. Just one short message that made my blood go cold because it referenced my fake name from the group. He did not threaten me directly. He did not insult me. It was worse than that. It was like he was reminding me he could still see me. Like he could still reach the version of me I thought was hidden. I did not reply. I sent screenshots to my friend. I told my sister. I stopped posting in the group completely. I still checked it sometimes, like touching a bruise to see if it hurts. I watched that new account keep commenting, always helpful, always supportive, always asking little questions. Nobody else seemed to notice because nothing about it looked creepy on the surface. That is the worst kind of creepy, the kind that wears normal clothes. A week later, the moderators posted an update saying they removed a member for breaking rules. No name, no details. Just a reminder about safety and anonymity. I stared at that post for a long time, not feeling relieved, just tired. I did not know if it was him. I did not know if there were more. I never saw him again in person. He did not show up at my school. He did not wait outside my building. Nothing like that. The fear stayed anyway, because the damage was not physical. It was the feeling that someone had been inside my headspace without permission, using my own words like a map. I still have the group on my phone, but I do not post. I just scroll sometimes, silent, watching everyone share their private stuff, watching them trust the way I used to trust. I want to warn them, but I also know how it sounds. Paranoid, dramatic, like a story you tell yourself. And that is the whole problem. It always sounds like that until it happens to you. The first clue showed up as a blue dot that would not stop moving, and I almost missed it because I thought it was my own. I was half awake, sitting on the edge of my bed, phone in one hand, trying to remember if I had work or class that day. My screen lit up with a notification I did not recognize, something about a new sign and location. I remember squinting at it, shrugging, and swiping it away like it was nothing. That tiny decision still bothers me more than the bigger ones. I matched with her during a stretch where my routine felt empty. Wake up, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. She looked fun in a low-effort way. Messy hair, crooked smile, pictures that did not scream filtered. She messaged first, joked about how bad the app was, and that alone made me like her. Anyone who admits it is awful feels honest. We talked for a week before meeting. Nothing intense, lots of memes. Dumb observations. She asked where I hung out, what my favorite places were, stuff like that. I did not think twice about answering. It all felt normal. When we met, it was at a late arcade bar with sticky floors and flashing lights. Loud enough that you had to lean in to hear each other. Public enough that I felt safe. The date was actually good. We laughed a lot, played games, teased each other. She had this way of acting impressed by small things that made you want to keep talking. Halfway through, she said she wanted to show me something funny on her phone. A video or a message or something. Then she realized she was logged out of the app we met on and said it would not load right without signing in. She asked if I could sign into my account on her phone real quick, just to see it. She framed it like a joke, like she wanted to see how my profile looked from the other side. I hesitated for maybe a second. Then I told myself it was harmless. I was right there. She was right there. What could happen in 10 seconds? I typed my login into her phone, feeling a little weird about it, but not enough to stop. She held the phone angled away from me, scrolling fast, laughing at something. Then she handed it back and said she forgot what she was even trying to show me. We laughed it off. I logged out, or at least I thought I did. I did not double check. I did not think I needed to. The rest of the night went fine. We stayed a bit longer, then went our separate ways. I went home to my apartment where I live alone, tired, but in good mood. I remember thinking it was nice to have a date that did not turn awkward. A few days later, she started sending messages that felt oddly timed. Not creepy at first, just specific, like asking how the coffee place near my work was doing, or commenting on traffic near my side of town. I figured she just knew the area. Lots of people did. Then one night, she asked why I took the long way home instead of cutting through the park. I stared at my phone, thumb frozen. I had not mentioned the park. I had not posted anything. I had just decided to walk instead of taking the bus because the weather was nice. I asked how she knew that was my route. She brushed it off, saying she remembered me mentioning it. I scrolled back through our chat. I had not once. After that, I started noticing more. She would message right after I left places, asking how it was. She commented on how late I stayed out, even when I had not said anything. Once, she asked if I was at the grocery store again because I always forgot one thing. I had said that once, jokingly, weeks earlier. Still, the timing felt off. I checked my app settings. Nothing weird. I checked my phone permissions. Nothing stood out. I told myself I was being paranoid. I had read too many stories online. Still, the feeling stayed. The real confirmation came by accident. I was waiting for a friend outside a movie theater, pacing back and forth because I was early. My phone buzzed. She sent a message saying the previews were probably already starting. My heart skipped. I had not told her I was seeing a movie. I had not posted. I had not checked in anywhere. I asked her how she knew. She replied with a laughing emoji and said she guessed. That answer did not land right. Guessing does not feel that accurate. That night, I went through every account I owned. Email, socials, apps. I changed a couple passwords just to feel proactive. When I got to the dating app, I noticed something small. My account showed an active session on another device. Not recent, continuous, like it had never logged out. My chest went tight. I clicked into the details. The device type matched her phone. The location ping updated every few minutes. Wherever I was, it followed, a blue dot trailing me like a shadow. I realized then that when I signed in on her phone, I never logged out properly, and she never logged me out either. The app had location permissions by default. Background refresh. All the stuff nobody thinks about until it matters. I logged out of all sessions immediately, changed my password again, turned off location sharing entirely. I felt relief for about 5 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. She asked why I disappeared from the map. My hand started shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. Map. She had said map. Not guessing. Not memory. Map. I did not reply. I blocked her. Unmatched. Deleted the app. I sat there on my bed, staring at the wall, trying to calm my breathing. The thought that someone had been watching my movements in real time made my skin crawl in a way I could not shake. The next day, she messaged me from a different number. She said she just liked knowing where I was. Said it made her feel connected. Said she did not see the harm since I had logged in myself. Reading that made my stomach drop all over again. She framed it like consent, like it was my fault. I did not respond. I saved the messages, sent them to a friend. Changed my number a week later. I stopped going to my usual places for a bit. Took different routes. Even though I knew she should not be able to see me anymore, the feeling of being tracked did not vanish right away. A month later, I got an email from the app about suspicious activity on my account. Too late. I read it, laughed once without humor, and deleted it. Nothing else happened. No confrontation. No apology. She faded out of my life as quietly as she entered it. But sometimes when my phone updates location services or asks for permission again, my chest tightens. I still think about how easy it was. How 10 seconds of trust gave someone a lit map of my life. How I handed over access because it felt rude to say no, because it felt awkward to question it, because I thought I was standing right there, so what could go wrong? Now, when anyone asks to use my phone or log into anything, my answer is simple. No. Not joking. Not laughing it off. Just no. I knew something was wrong before I even saw the screen, because my phone would not stop buzzing in that frantic way that means other people are seeing something you have not yet. I was sitting across from him, fries getting cold between us, lights buzzing overhead, thinking the date was just boring enough to forget later. Then my phone vibrated again, and again, and again. I remember thinking someone must have added me to a group chat by mistake. I had no idea it was already out there with my name attached. We matched on a dating app during a stretch where I kept telling myself I would give people more chances. His profile looked normal, maybe a little too eager, but nothing alarming. He smiled a lot in his photos. Not in a fake influencer way, more like he wanted people to like him. Our messages were fast and friendly. He liked to send selfies. I thought it was a little much, but I brushed it off as confidence. We decided to meet at a casual place near my job. A diner-style spot that stayed open late and had big windows. I picked it because it was public and close, somewhere I could walk to if I wanted. I did not tell him exactly where I worked, just the general area. That mattered to me. I was careful about that stuff. He was already there when I arrived, phone in his hand, smiling too wide. He stood up fast when he saw me, like he had been watching the door. That should have made me uneasy, but I ignored it. I always try to be polite first and suspicious later. The date itself was fine. Not great. He talked a lot about himself, his hobbies, his gym routine, random stories that went on too long. I nodded and smiled and checked the time a couple times. Nothing felt dangerous, just tiring. About halfway through, he suggested we take a selfie together. Not asking exactly, more like already holding his phone up. I leaned back instinctively, laughing it off, saying I did not really like photos. He said it would be cute, just something to remember the night. Before I could fully stop him, he leaned in and snapped it anyway. I did not freak out. It was just a picture. Public place. Lots of people around. I figured I could ask him to delete it later if it bothered me. He glanced at the screen, smiled, and set his phone down. I thought that was the end of it. My phone buzzed again, then again. I pulled it out, in a way now, expecting spam or a work message. Instead, I saw a notification from a social app I barely used anymore. Someone had tagged me in a post. My stomach dropped before the post even loaded. It was the selfie, the one he had just taken, posted publicly. His caption was something casual and dumb about date night, but that was not the problem. The problem was that he had tagged my full name. Not my username, my real name. First and last. Spelled perfectly. Before I could even process that, I saw the next tag. My workplace. Not just the company name, but the specific location. The exact place I worked. The place I had not told him about directly. The place I walked into 4 days a week wearing my name badge. My phone kept buzzing. Likes, comments, friend requests, people clicking the tags. People I did not know now one tap away from where I live and where I worked. I felt heat rush through my body like my skin was on fire. I looked up at him, my mouth open, but no words coming out. He was grinning at his phone, scrolling through reactions like he had just posted something impressive. I tried to stay calm. I pointed at my phone, showing him the post, trying to make him understand how not okay this was. He shrugged, like it was nothing, like I was overreacting. He said he thought it was obvious information, that people post that stuff all the time. I told him to take it down, not later. Now, my hands were shaking so hard I had to grip the edge of the table. He said he would in a minute. He wanted to see what people said first. Another notification popped up. Someone had commented something about stopping by my job sometime, with a laughing emoji. My chest went tight. That was it. That was the moment where the date ended in my head completely. I stood up, grabbing my bag so fast and knocked my chair back. I told him again to delete it. He looked annoyed now, like I was ruining his fun. He said I should relax, that it was already out there anyway. I walked out. I did not wait for a response. The bell on the door rang loud as I pushed it open, the night air hitting me like a shock. I walked fast, then faster, foam clutched in my hand, opening the post again and again like I could undo it by staring. Outside, under a streetlight, I started reporting it. Reported the photo. Reported the tags. Sent messages to the platform. My fingers fumbled. Everything felt slow. The post was still live, still gathering attention. I messaged friends asking them to report it too. Some of them responded immediately, asking what was going on, sounding worried. I did not even know how to explain it yet. By the time I got back to my apartment where I live, my heart was racing and my head hurt. I locked the door and slid down against it, phone glowing in the dark. The post was still there. Someone had shared it to their story. Someone else had commented asking how long we had been together. I checked his profile. He had hundreds of followers, mostly strangers, gym people, random accounts. I scrolled through his feed and saw other women. Not tagged as deeply, but posted selfies, captions about vibes and connections. I wondered if they knew. I wondered if this was a pattern. I messaged him again, demanding he delete it. This time, he said he would when he got home. That was not good enough. Every minute it stayed up felt like another door opening somewhere I could not see. I reported the post again, filled out forms, selected reasons, privacy, personal information. It all felt flimsy, like throwing paper at a fire. About 40 minutes later, the post disappeared. Not deleted, removed by the platform. I got a notification saying it violated guidelines. Relief washed over me so hard I almost cried, but it did not last long. Screenshots already existed. A friend sent me one. Someone had saved it and reposted it privately before it came down. My name, my workplace, my face, frozen. He messaged me after it was gone, acting confused about why I was so upset. He said he thought it was flattering. He said people like being seen. Reading it made my stomach twist. I blocked him immediately. Unmatched. Reported his account too. The next day at work was awful. I walked in feeling exposed, like everyone could see something written on my forehead. Nothing happened, but that did not help. I kept checking the windows. Kept flinching when the door opened. Kept wondering if someone recognized me from a post that should never have existed. My manager asked if everything was okay because I seemed off. I lied. I did not want to explain how close something stupid and fast had come to turning my routine into a mess. Over the next week, I locked down everything. Socials private. Old posts cleaned. Workplace tag removed where I could. I asked friends not to tag me anywhere for a while. It felt like shrinking myself to fit back into safety. Nothing else happened after that. No one showed up. No messages from strangers. Life moved on in that unfair way it always does. But the feeling stuck. The idea that someone could take a moment, a face, a name, and blast it out without asking. That control could be taken so easily. I still think about how fast it happened. One photo. One post. Seconds between normal and exposed. I did not even get a chance to say no. The first thing I noticed later was not the videos themselves, but how my memory of that night had holes in it where laughter should have been. It felt like someone had taken scissors to the timeline and snipped out the parts that made sense, leaving only the awkward frames behind. At the time, though, I just thought I was having a decent night out that leaned a little louder than planned. I matched with her during a stretch, where I was bored enough to ignore my own rules. Her profile had a party energy to it, not reckless, just social. Lots of group shots, drinks in hand, smiling like she was always in the middle of something fun. I usually avoided that type because I did not like feeling like the quiet one, but I swiped anyway. She messaged fast, joked a lot, and suggested we meet for drinks instead of coffee. I agreed without thinking much about it. We picked a bar near the river, one of those places with neon signs and sticky tables where everyone looks a little flushed. I got there first and ordered a soda while I waited, telling myself I would ease into it. When she arrived, she laughed at my drink choice and ordered shots immediately. Not one. Two. She said it was to break the ice. I told her I did not usually drink much. She waved it off, saying tonight was different. She said I looked tense and needed to loosen up. She raised her glass, pulled out her phone, and recorded a quick clip of us toasting. I leaned in, smiling, not thinking about it. People record everything now. It felt normal. The first drink hit fast. The second followed before I could fully register the first. She kept the energy high, talking loud, laughing louder, pulling me into it. Every time I hesitated, she framed it like a joke, like I was the one slowing things down. She recorded another toast, then another, always quick, always casual. I remember thinking I should slow down. I even said it once lightly. She laughed and said one more would not hurt. She said it was cute when I tried to be responsible. That word stuck with me, cute, because it made saying no feel embarrassing. The bar got louder as the night went on. Lights blurred a bit. My body felt warm and loose in a way I did not hate at first. She kept her phone out, sometimes filming, sometimes just holding it like she might. She said she loved capturing moments. I did not realize she was capturing pieces. At some point, I switched to beer, thinking it would help me pace. She ordered shots anyway and slid one toward me each time. She said it was rude to leave someone hanging on a toast. She said it was tradition. She said I was overthinking it. I do not remember how many there were. I remember laughing at something that was not that funny. I remember knocking my elbow into a glass and apologizing too much. I remember the bartender giving me a look that felt like a warning. She recorded another clip, this one longer. She said she liked the way I talked when I was relaxed. I leaned back in my chair, words coming slower now, thoughts lagging behind them. I felt fuzzy, but not gone. I still felt like myself. just softer around the edges. When we left the bar, the air outside felt sharp and cold. It sobered me a little. I told her I needed water. She said we could grab some later. She recorded one more toast outside, raising an empty cup, laughing at nothing. I got home to my place where I live and collapsed onto my bed without even taking my shoes off. My phone buzzed once, maybe twice, then stopped. I slept heavy and woke up with that thick-headed feeling that makes the morning feel louder than it should. I did not hear from her the next day. I figured she was hungover too. I drank water, tried to piece together the night, and moved on. It was just a sloppy date, I told myself. Nothing to dwell on. 3 days later, my coworker asked me if I was okay. That question did not make sense at first. I asked what he meant. He said he had seen a video of me that was kind of concerning. My stomach dropped. I asked where. He hesitated, then said it was circulating in a group chat he was in, posted by someone he did not know personally. I went cold all over. I asked him to show me. The video was short, maybe 20 seconds. It showed me mid-sentence, words slurred, eyes unfocused, laughing and then suddenly serious. The cut was harsh. It made it look like I was switching moods fast, like I could not hold a thought. The caption implied I was unstable, that I needed help, that nights out with me were unpredictable. I felt like I was watching a stranger wear my face. There were more clips, stitched together, different toasts, different angles, all out of order. The moments where I was clear were gone. The moments where I stumbled stayed. The edits made it look like I was spiraling, like I was not in control. I recognized the bar, the lighting, her laugh in the background. My chest tightened. She had taken those videos and shaped them into something ugly. I checked my messages. There was one from her sent earlier that day. She said she hoped I was okay and that some people worried about me after seeing how I was acting. She said she thought sharing the clips might help me realize I had a problem. I felt sick, not just embarrassed, exposed, like my own body had been used as proof of something I did not agree to. I asked her to take them down. She said they were already out there. She said she did not tag me, like that made it better. She said people deserved to know what they were getting into. I blocked her immediately. I reported the videos where I could, but they had already been shared, saved, cropped, reposted without context. Some comments were jokes. Some were concerned. All of them felt wrong. Work became awkward fast. People started treating me carefully, like I might break. One manager asked if everything was okay at home. Another suggested I take a few days off. No one accused me of anything directly, but the tone had changed. I replayed the night in my head over and over. I remembered how often she had pushed another drink toward me, how she laughed when I tried to slow down, how she always had the camera ready right after. I started checking the app again, even though I had blocked her. Her profile was still there, still smiling, still posting stories from bars, still tagging people. I wondered how many other videos like mine existed, edited just enough to tell a story that benefited her. A week later, a friend sent me another clip. This one had new text over it, suggesting I was dangerous when drinking. I felt my hands shake. I filed more reports. Some were taken down. Others stayed. Eventually, the noise died down. New content replaced me. The internet moved on like it always does. But the damage stayed in smaller ways. The way people looked at me. The way I questioned my own memory. The way I flinched when someone pulled out a phone near me. I stopped drinking entirely for a while. Not because I thought she was right, but because I needed to trust myself again. I needed to know where the line was. I needed to feel solid. I never heard from her again after that last message. She got what she wanted, whatever that was. Attention, control, a story shaped her way. Now, when I think back on that night, I remember how many times she said one more like it was nothing. How many times she lifted her phone right when I felt least steady. How easy it was to turn moments into evidence with a little editing. I still go out sometimes. I still have drinks. But I keep my count. I keep my space. And I do not let anyone record me anymore, no matter how harmless it seems. The moment that sticks with me is not the scariest part, which is weird to say, but it is true. It is the normal part right before everything tilted. The part where I unlocked my door and thought about how quiet my building always felt at night. The kind of quiet that makes you feel safe because nothing ever happens there. I had no idea that silence was about to trap me instead of protect me. I matched with him on a night where I was doing the lazy scroll, not really hoping for anything. His profile was fine. Not exciting, not alarming. He wrote full sentences, which already put him above half the app. He said he liked routines and being reliable. That sounded good to me. I was tired of people who vanished mid-conversation. We talked for a week. Nothing intense. He was polite. Maybe a little stiff, but I figured he was just nervous. He asked what area I lived in, not my address, just the general neighborhood. I gave a vague answer. I always did. He never pushed further. Our first date was at a small place near a movie theater. Late showing, lots of people around, lights everywhere. The movie itself was forgettable, which honestly helped. We talked a little afterward, walked around, nothing felt wrong. When it was time to go, he offered to walk me home. I said no at first, out of habit. My place was close. I was fine. He insisted, but not in a pushy way. More like he thought it was expected. He said it felt unfinished otherwise. I laughed and agreed because it was late and I did not want to argue over something small. That was my mistake. I keep replaying it, wondering why I did not listen to that tiny warning feeling. The walk was quiet. Street lights flickered. We talked about random stuff, mostly the movie. When my building came into view, he smiled like he had reached a checkpoint. I unlocked the door and stepped into the lobby. He followed without asking. That felt normal at first. Lots of people walk friends inside. My building is old, narrow hallway. Carpet that always smells faintly like cleaning spray. As we walked toward my door, I felt that little shift in the air, like when someone stands too close behind you. I unlocked my apartment, stepped inside, and turned to say goodbye. He stepped in too. It happened so smoothly that I froze instead of reacting, like my brain had to catch up to my eyes. He stood just inside the doorway, not touching anything, not smiling, not angry, just there. I told him it was time for him to go. My voice sounded calm, which surprised me. I expected it to shake. He did not move. He looked around like he was taking inventory. Couch, shoes by the door, photos on the wall. He said something about wanting to finish the night properly. He mentioned the app, said it encouraged follow through, like this was a feature, not a red flag. He said walking someone inside was part of being respectful. My heart started beating faster, but my body stayed still. I did not want to escalate. I told him again that I was tired and wanted to be alone. He nodded like he understood, then stayed exactly where he was. The door was still open behind him. The hallway light spilled in, but it felt far away. I thought about stepping past him, about calling out, about anything that would break the moment. Instead, I stood there, trying to make my voice firmer without sounding panicked. He said it felt rude to just end things at the door. He said connections deserved closure. He said the app matched people for a reason. His words were calm, almost rehearsed, like he had practiced this explanation before. I took a step back into my apartment, putting space between us. He took a step forward, not fast, not aggressive, just matching me. That was when my chest tightened in a way I had never felt before. Not fear exactly, pressure. I glanced toward my phone on the counter. He noticed. His eyes flicked there too, then back to me. He said I did not need it, that we were already here, already committed to seeing it through. I felt my hands start to shake. I told him clearly that he needed to leave. I did not soften it this time. I did not laugh. I did not apologize. He frowned like I had said something confusing. He asked why I was acting like this. He said nothing bad was happening. He said I was safe. Hearing him decide that for me made something snap in my head. I moved toward the door, reaching past him to grab the handle. He did not grab me, but he shifted his body just enough to block it. Not touching. Just occupying space. My apartment suddenly felt too small, like the walls were leaning in. I raised my voice then, not screaming, but louder. I said his name and told him to leave now. The word now felt heavy and desperate in my mouth. That was when his expression changed. Not angry, disappointed, like I had failed a test. He said I was breaking the flow. He said people these days never commit to anything. He said the app was designed to push people past awkward moments, and that this was just one of those. I realized then that he truly believed this, that he thought the app gave him permission, that he was not misunderstanding me. He was ignoring me. I stepped back again and grabbed my phone. My fingers felt clumsy, but I managed to unlock it. I said I was calling someone. I did not specify who. I did not need to. The moment the screen lit up, he stepped away from the door. Not much, just enough. His shoulders tensed. The confidence drained out of him fast, like someone had unplugged it. He said he did not want trouble. He said I was overreacting. He said he was just trying to be decent. None of that mattered. I moved past him, opened the door wider, and pointed toward the hallway. For a second, I thought he might refuse again. Instead, he stepped out slowly, like he was leaving a place he thought belonged to him. He turned back once, like he wanted to say something else, but I did not give him time. I shut the door and locked it, then locked it again. I slid down against the door, phone shaking in my hand, breath coming out in short bursts. My heart felt like it was trying to escape my chest. I stayed there for a long time, listening for footsteps, listening for anything. When I finally stood up, my apartment felt different. Not unsafe exactly, but changed, like the walls remembered something I wanted to forget. He messaged me later that night, acting confused, saying he thought we were connecting, saying he felt led on. Reading that made my stomach twist all over again. I did not reply. I blocked him on the app, blocked his number, reported the account, though I did not know what category fit what had happened. The next few days felt unreal. Every sound in the hallway made me tense. Every knock set my heart racing. Nothing happened, but that did not erase the feeling that something had almost gone very wrong. I'd read the app guidelines later out of curiosity. There was nothing about follow-through, nothing about walking people inside, nothing that excused what he did. He had made it up, or twisted something small into something dangerous. I still live in the same apartment. I did not move. I refused to let that moment chase me out of my own space, but I changed things. I do not let anyone walk me inside anymore. Not dates, not acquaintances, not anyone I do not fully trust. Sometimes, late at night, I stand in my hallway and look at my door, remembering how easy it was for someone to step past it without permission. How close politeness came to costing me my sense of control. The scariest part was not when she said it. It was the quiet after. The kind of quiet that feels fake, like the power went out, but the fridge is still humming, pretending everything is normal. I was staring at my phone, refreshing a screen that had always given me something back, and suddenly it was like I did not exist anymore. I had been on dating apps long enough to understand the rhythm. Matches come and go, conversations stall, people vanish mid-sentence. None of that bothered me much. It was just noise. This was different. This felt intentional, like someone reached in my pocket and turned me off. I matched with her on a random night where I was half watching a show and half scrolling. Her profile was confident in a blunt way. She said she valued honesty and safety more than chemistry. That line stood out to me because it sounded serious without being dramatic. We talked for a few days. Nothing deep, nothing flirty, just easy back and forth. She asked a lot of questions about how long I had been on the app, what kind of people I usually matched with, whether I met many people in person. I answered casually. It did not feel invasive at the time. It felt like curiosity. When we decided to meet, it was low effort. Coffee in the afternoon. Public. Safe. The date itself was fine. Quiet. Almost boring. She talked about her job, her friends, how exhausting dating felt. I agreed. We bonded over mutual frustration. Nothing about it felt tense or strange. When we left, there was no hug, no spark, just a polite goodbye. I figured that was it. Another date that would fade out. Later that night, she messaged me again. She said she appreciated meeting me but felt unsure. I told her that was fair. No hard feelings. I met it. Then she added one more thing, like an afterthought, like she was doing me a favor. She said she had already warned people about me just in case. That sentence did not land right away. My brain tried to smooth it over, tried to read it as a joke or a weird phrasing. I asked what she meant. She said she liked to be careful and had shared my profile with a few people. She said it was nothing personal. She said it was for safety. I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. I had not done anything. I had not said anything out of line. The date had been normal. I asked who she warned. She said friends, groups, people who looked out for each other. She said it was standard. Standard for who? That question kept looping in my head. I told her I was uncomfortable with that. She replied calmly, saying it was already done and there was no reason to worry unless I had something to hide. That line felt sharp, even without anchor, like a door closing quietly. I stopped responding after that. I sat on my couch where I live, phone in my hand, trying to shake the feeling. I told myself it was just one person being extra. Nothing would come of it. The next morning, my app was empty. Not just quieter, empty. No new matches, no unread messages. Conversations that had been active the day before were gone. Not unmatched one by one. Gone, like they had never existed. I refreshed the app, closed it, reopened it, checked my connection. Everything worked, except the people. I tried swiping. Nothing happened. Profiles loaded, but no matches came through, even with people I had been talking to regularly. I checked my messages tab again. Still blank. I felt stupid for panicking, but the timing was too clean to ignore. I checked my email. No warnings from the app. No violations. No notifications. Just silence. I reached out to a friend who also used the app and asked if my profile showed up. She searched. Nothing. Not even blocked. Just not there. I logged into the web version. Same thing. My profile existed, but it was like it had been buried, shadowed, invisible without being deleted. That afternoon, someone messaged me on a different platform. A girl I had matched with weeks earlier but never met. She said she wanted to be honest and let me know she had heard some things and decided not to continue talking. She did not explain what things. She just said she trusted the source. My chest tightened. I asked where she heard it. She said a safety group. She said profiles get shared sometimes when someone feels unsure. She said my name and photos had been posted with a warning. A warning about what? I asked. She did not answer that part. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, scrolling through my phone, trying to find proof of something I could fight. There was nothing. No post I could report. No message I could screenshot. Just whispers moving faster than I could follow. I messaged the girl from the date again, asking what exactly she had said. She replied hours later, saying she did not accuse me of anything specific. She said she just told people to be careful. She said that if I was a good guy, it would not matter. It mattered. The next few days were surreal. Every app I was on felt hollow. My notifications dried up completely. Even likes on old photos slowed down, like someone had turned down my visibility everywhere. I could not prove it was connected, but I felt it in my gut. I started hearing things secondhand. A friend of a friend mentioned my name in a group chat. Someone asked if I was the guy people were talking about. Nobody would tell me exactly what was being said, just that it was vague and cautionary and impossible to argue with. That is the thing about warnings. They do not need details. They just need doubt. I contacted the dating app support, explaining that my matches had vanished overnight. They responded with a generic message about algorithm changes in user behavior. Nothing actionable. Nothing I could point to and say this is wrong. I asked if my profile had been reported. They said they could not share that information. They said my account was still active. They said to keep using the app and things would normalize. They did not. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. I stopped opening the app because it felt like staring at a blank wall waiting for it to blink. I deleted it eventually, not out of anger, but because it made me feel erased. What messed with me most was the power imbalance. She did not threaten me. She did not accuse me directly. She just positioned herself as cautious and let the rest happen on its own. She never had to explain herself. I had to live inside the result. I replayed the date over and over, searching for the moment where I messed up. There was nothing. No argument. No awkward comment. No red flag. Just a vibe she decided to treat as dangerous. I thought about how easy it was. A screenshot, a message in a group, a few words like just in case. That was all it took. Months later, I ran into someone at a party who looked familiar. She stared at me for a second, then asked if we had matched before. I said maybe. She hesitated, then said she remembered now and walked away. I stood there holding a drink I did not want any more, feeling like I was marked with something invisible. I never found the original post. I never saw the warnings. I never got to respond. Whatever story was told about me did not include my voice. I still date, just not online. Not like that. I am careful about who knows my name now, about who sees my face before they know me, because I learned that being quiet does not protect you once someone decides to talk for you. The app never told me I was done. It just stopped showing me to people. It let me fade out slowly like I chose it. The first thing I noticed was not him, it was the room shrinking. Not literally, but in that slow way where you suddenly realize the space you thought you had is gone. I remember thinking the cafe felt different than it did when I walked in, like someone had nudged the walls while I was not looking. My body clocked it before my brain did, and by the time I understood why, I was already boxed in. We matched on a dating app on a night where I was bored enough to ignore the little warning filters I usually had. His profile looked thoughtful, not flashy, not aggressive. He talked about communication a lot, about how body language mattered more than words. That sounded harmless, even interesting. I liked the idea of someone who paid attention. We talked for about a week before meeting. He was consistent, checked in daily, remembered details. He asked how I liked to sit when I talked to people, which I thought was an odd question, but I brushed it off as curiosity. He said he was really into conversational flow, how positioning affected connection. I joked about it, but he seemed serious. We decided to meet at a quiet coffee place tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner. I liked it because it was narrow and familiar, the kind of place where baristas know regulars and nothing dramatic ever happens. When I arrived, he was already there, sitting at a small round table near the back. He stood up when he saw me and suggested we move to a booth instead. He said booths felt more focused. I did not think twice. We grabbed our drinks and slid into a booth along the wall. I sat on the outside seat without thinking, closest to the aisle. He sat across from me. For the first 10 minutes, everything felt fine. Normal date energy, light talk, him nodding a lot. Then he paused mid-sentence and said it might feel better if we switched seats so we were not distracted by people walking past. He slid out of his seat smoothly and gestured for me to move. I shrugged and switched, ending up on the inside of the booth, my back to the wall, him on the outside now. It felt slightly odd, but not enough to register as wrong. I told myself I was overthinking again. A few minutes later, a group came in and sat at the table behind him. He leaned forward, glanced around, and said the noise might mess with our focus. He suggested we rotate so we were side by side instead. Before I could respond, he slid his seat closer to the wall, leaving me in the corner of the booth. I laughed awkwardly and asked if he always rearranged furniture on dates. He smiled and said it helped conversations breathe. He said he liked when people felt held in the moment. That phrase stuck to me, held in the moment. My shoulders tensed without me telling them to. I shifted my legs under the table and realized I could not easily get out without asking him to move. His knee was angled just enough to block the opening. Not aggressively, just positioned. I told myself it was coincidence. Boots are tight. People are close. He kept talking, asking questions that required thought. Long answers. Personal stuff. Every time I leaned back or glanced toward the aisle, he subtly adjusted, sliding his cup, shifting his elbow, closing the gap. When the barista called out an order, I took it as an excuse to move. I reached for my bag and said I was going to refill my water. He immediately stood up and said he would grab it for me, then sat back down in the same blocking position. I felt heat creep up my neck. I told him it was fine. He insisted. He said it would interrupt the flow if I got up. He said we were in a good place. I tried to keep my face neutral. I focused on breathing. I reminded myself we were in public, people everywhere. Nothing bad was happening. But my body disagreed. My foot bounced under the table. My hands felt restless. He noticed. He commented on it. Said it was cute how nervous I got when conversations got deeper. He said that sometimes people try to escape when things get real. He said positioning helps prevent that. That was when my chest tightened. Prevent that, like leaving with something to manage. I looked around the cafe, really looked this time. The door was clear. The counter was open. I could see the exit. But my path to it ran directly through him. I asked him to scoot so I could stretch my legs. He smiled and said we could just switch again. Before I could object, he slid deeper into the booth, leaving me pressed closer to the wall, his shoulder almost brushing mine. The table felt closer now. The air felt warmer. My drink sat untouched, condensation pooling under it like it had been there too long. I tried to scoot sideways, but the wall stopped me. I told him I needed to use the bathroom. He nodded, then stayed seated. I waited. He did not move. I realized then that every repositioning had ended with him closer to the exit and me farther from it. I repeated myself, more clearly this time. He frowned, like I had broken a rule. He said we had just found a good rhythm. He said breaking it would make things awkward. Awkward felt like a joke compared to what I was feeling. My heart was beating faster now. Not panic. Not yet. Just urgency. I leaned forward, trying to stand without waiting. His hand landed on the table, not touching me, but close enough that I froze. He said we should finish the thought first. He said people always rush away right before understanding each other. That did it. Something in me hardened. I pushed back against the table and said I was leaving. Not asking, stating. He finally stood, but instead of stepping aside, he angled his body so the booth still boxed me in. He said I was misreading things. He said he was just trying to make me comfortable. He said conversation needed structure. I raised my voice then, not yelling, but loud enough to carry. I said his name and said I needed space. Heads turned. The room snapped back into focus like a spell breaking. He stepped back immediately. His shoulders dropped. The calm confidence cracked. He muttered something about misunderstanding and moved aside. I slid out of the booth fast, legs shaky, bag clutched to my chest. The aisle felt wider than it had before. I walked straight to the door without looking back. Outside, the air felt cold and sharp. I stood there for a second, breathing too fast, trying to slow my heart. My phone buzzed. A message from him saying he thought things were going really well and did not know why I left so suddenly. I did not respond. I blocked him. Unmatched. My hands were still shaking when I put my phone away. Later that night, sitting on my couch where I live, I replayed the date in my head. Every chair movement. Every adjustment. How natural it all looked on the surface. How deliberate it felt once you lined it up. Nothing else happened. He did not follow me. He did not show up again, which almost made it worse because it meant that moment was the point. The control. The test. Now, whenever I sit down with someone new, I notice the exits first. I choose my seat carefully. I do not let anyone rearrange the space around me without asking why. I listen to my body when it tightens for no clear reason. Sometimes control does not come with raised voices or grabbing hands. Sometimes it comes with a chair sliding an inch closer and someone calling it flow. I knew I was being watched long before she admitted it, but I could not figure out how or why, and that confusion is what made it stick to me. It felt like being slightly off balance for days, like the ground kept shifting a half-inch under my feet. Nothing dramatic happened at first. No blow-up. No obvious moment where I should have walked away. Just a slow realization that I was not a person in the situation. I was a data point. We matched on a dating app during one of those nights where I was bored enough to swipe without expectations. Her profile was sharp. Clean photos. Confident captions. She wrote like someone who knew what she wanted and did not apologize for it. I liked that. It felt refreshing compared to all the vague bios and half-jokes. She messaged first and kept the conversation moving. She asked thoughtful questions, not just the usual surface stuff. What I thought about relationships, how I handled rejection, what I believed people owed each other on dates. I answered honestly, not realizing that honesty was the whole point for her. We talked for about a week before meeting. During that time, she sometimes took a while to respond, then came back with very specific follow-ups, like she had been reviewing something. I noticed it but brushed it off. Everyone multitasks. Everyone gets busy. We met at a wine bar that doubled as a bookstore. Shelves along the walls, small tables, soft music. The kind of place that makes people talk quieter than usual. I liked it because it felt low pressure. She was already there when I arrived, sitting with perfect posture, phone face down. The date felt different from others I had been on. Not bad, just focused. She listened in a way that felt intense but flattering. She nodded a lot. Sometimes she would pause before reacting, like she was choosing the right response instead of just responding. I remember thinking she was really present. She asked about my past dating stories, what patterns I noticed, what frustrated me. I talked more than I usually did. I felt understood, or at least heard. Every now and then she would smile slightly, like something clicked. About halfway through, she asked how I would feel if someone matched with me for a reason other than attraction. I laughed and said it depended on the reason. She tilted her head and said, "Interesting." That was it. She did not explain. When the date ended, she thanked me for being open. She said she liked talking to people who did not get defensive. I walked home feeling good in a quiet way, like I had passed some unspoken test. We kept messaging after that. She asked follow-up questions referencing things I had said on the date, sometimes quoting me almost word for word. It felt flattering at first. Then it started feeling strange, like she was cataloging me. A few days later, she asked if I minded if she shared some of our conversations anonymously. She said it was for a project. I asked what kind of project. She said research. That word hit me wrong, but I did not know why yet. I asked if she meant academic research. She said not exactly. She said she was testing a theory about men on dating apps. She said she had been doing it for a while. My chest tightened. I asked what kind of theory. She said patterns of entitlement, emotional response, conversational control. She said it casually, like she was listing groceries. I told her I was uncomfortable with that. She said she understood, but that it was already mostly done. She said she had matched with me intentionally because I fit certain markers. Age, tone, profile wording, the way I described myself. Reading that made my skin crawl, fit certain markers, like I was a sample, not a person. I asked what she planned to do with it. She said she had already published the results online. She said it was anonymous. She said no names. She said it was important work. I sat on my couch where I lived, staring at my phone, trying to process how fast this had escalated. I asked where it was published. She sent me a link. It was a blog, clean layout, confident writing. She framed it like a social experiment. Screenshots of conversations, excerpts from dates, patterns highlighted, commentary layered on top explaining what each response supposedly revealed. I scrolled slowly, heart pounding. I recognized my words almost immediately. Sentences I had typed late at night. Phrases I remembered saying while leaning back in a chair. She had removed my name, but she had not removed my voice. Anyone who knew me well would recognize it. She described me as Subject 7. Subject 7 was categorized as emotionally unaware but well-meaning, prone to defensiveness when confronted with hypothetical rejection. She analyzed my pauses, my jokes, my attempts to relate. She wrote about me like I was a bug pinned to cardboard. My hands shook as I scrolled further. She included a photo. Not my face, just my shoes from under the table, the exact ones I had worn, the floor of the wine bar visible beneath them. Anyone who had been there would know the place. Comments filled the bottom of the page. People debating me. People agreeing with her conclusions. People speculating about what kind of man I was. Some were supportive of her. Some were cruel toward the subjects. None of them knew they were talking about real people who had not agreed to this. I messaged her back asking her to take it down. She said she could not. She said the discussion was important. She said removing one subject would compromise the integrity of the project. Integrity. That word felt like a slap. I told her I did not consent to being studied or published. She said consent was implied by participation in the app. She said conversations were voluntary. She said she did not use my name. I felt sick. I tried reporting the blog. Nothing happened. I tried commenting, explaining that I was one of the subjects and did not agree. My comment was deleted within minutes. Over the next few days, things got worse in small ways. Matches stopped responding. Conversations ended abruptly. One girl unmatched me after a single message and said she had read something about guys like me. Like me. Not me specifically, but close enough. I realized then that her blog was circulating, not everywhere, just enough. Enough to poison the water without anyone knowing where it came from. I Googled phrases from the blog and found them quoted in threads. Screenshots shared without context. Her theory taking on a life of its own, detached from the fact that it was built on real people who never agreed to be part of it. I stopped using the app, deleted it, but that did not erase what was already out there, the idea of me, the version she created. Weeks later, she messaged me again, saying she hoped I understood eventually. She said a lot of men reacted badly when they found out. She said my reaction was actually more controlled than average. She said that supported her findings. I did not reply. I blocked her, but her words stayed with me. The idea that even my discomfort was being measured. I still think about how normal it all felt at the start, how I thought I was just on a date talking about life, how easily that turned into material, how trust became content. Nothing legally bad happened, no threats, no stalking. Just something quieter and harder to shake, being turned into an example without permission, being frozen in someone else's narrative. Sometimes I still find pieces of it online, paraphrased, referenced, my words detached from me, floating around as proof of a theory I never agreed to test. I am more careful now, not just with what I say, but with why someone might be listening. I do not assume curiosity is harmless anymore. The sound is what comes back first, not his face, not the table, not the place. Just the tiny camera clicked that cut through everything else like it was louder than it should have been. I remember my stomach dropping before my brain even figured out why. One second I was holding my wallet, the next second my identity was no longer just mine. We matched on a dating app during one of those weeks where I felt too restless to stay home and too tired to actually be excited. His profile looked careful in a way I found reassuring. He talked about trust, about being upfront, about how dating apps were full of fake people. I remember thinking he sounded like someone who had been burned and was trying to do better. That kind of honesty usually lowers my guard. Our messages were steady and polite. No rush flirting, no weird compliments. He asked questions that felt normal. Where I liked to go in the city, how long I had lived there, whether I had ever run into someone who lied online. I told him a watered-down story and he reacted with sympathy. Nothing about it felt suspicious at the time. We decided to meet at a busy cafe near a transit hub. Bright windows, lots of noise, people constantly coming and going. I picked it because it felt safe. When I walked in, he was already seated, scrolling on his phone. He looked up immediately and smiled like he was relieved I showed up. The date started fine, honestly fine. He was calm, soft-spoken, almost shy in person. We talked about work, about bad dates, about how weird it was to meet strangers off the internet. He nodded a lot. He agreed with me on almost everything, which should have felt off, but somehow just felt easy. About half an hour in, he brought a verification. He said he had a habit of confirming identities early because he had been tricked before. He said it casually, like it was something everyone did. I laughed a little and said the app already verified me. He said that did not always mean much. He said people could still lie. I felt that small internal pause, the one I usually listen to. But we were sitting in a crowded cafe and he sounded reasonable, and I did not want to look dramatic. I told him I did not want to share anything sensitive. He said he just wanted to see my id briefly, to know I was real, and that I could cover whatever I wanted. I pulled my id out of my wallet and held it up in my hand, not placing it on the table. My plan was to flash it for a second and put it away. I remember feeling awkward, like I was doing something I should not have to do, but I told myself it would be quick. He leaned forward faster than I expected. There was a sudden movement, a lift of his phone, and then that sound, the click, sharp and final. My body froze before my thoughts caught up. I stared at his phone like it had just bitten me. For a second, he acted like nothing happened. Then he smiled and said he needed it just for a moment. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I asked him what he just did. My voice sounded thin even to me. He said he took a photo by accident. He said phones were sensitive. He said he would delete it. I told him to delete it now. I could feel heat spreading across my face and neck. He angled the phone away from me, tapping the screen quickly. He said it was gone. He did not show me. He did not offer proof. I wanted to grab the phone out of his hands. I did not. I did not want to cause a scene. I hated that about myself in that moment, that instinct to keep things calm even when something was clearly wrong. The rest of the day felt unreal, like I was playing a role in a story that had already been written. He kept talking, asking questions, acting normal. I nodded and responded automatically while my brain replayed that click over and over. I ended things early, saying I had to go. He looked disappointed but did not argue. When I stood up, my legs felt shaky. I walked out of the cafe without looking back, the noise and light feeling too sharp. Outside, I stood on the sidewalk, gripping my wallet like it might disappear. I checked my eye again, like it being there physically could undo what had already happened. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down on a bench. I messaged him immediately, telling him again to delete the photo and to confirm it. He replied quickly, saying it was already gone and that I was worrying too much. That phrase made my stomach twist. Worrying too much about my full name, address, date of birth, and ID number being on his phone. I asked him to send proof. He said that was unnecessary and invasive. He said trust went both ways. That was the moment I stopped replying. When I got home to my apartment where I live, I locked the door and leaned against it, trying to slow my breathing. I felt exposed in a way I had never felt before, like parts of me were loose in the world without my permission. The next morning, I woke up to missed calls from a number I did not recognize. The voicemail used my full legal name, not the shortened version I use everywhere. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might throw up. I did not listen to the message. I blocked the number. Another call came later from a different number. Same thing. Same name. I sat on my bed staring at my phone, heart racing, realizing how much information fit on that tiny card he had photographed. I spent the entire day making calls. Banks, credit bureaus. Services I had forgotten I even signed up for. Freezing things. Adding pins. Answering security questions that suddenly felt useless. Every call made it more real. I checked the dating app. His profile was gone, not unmatched, deleted, vanished. That scared me more than anything else. If it was truly an accident, why disappear? Over the next week, nothing catastrophic happened, but the small things piled up. Spam emails using my full name. Mail showing up addressed slightly wrong but close enough. A notification that someone tried to open an account in my name but failed. I filed a report. The officer listened politely and told me it would be hard to trace. No direct proof, no ongoing threat they could see. He told me to stay alert and keep records. Alert became my default mode. Every unknown number made my heart jump. Every email felt suspicious. I stopped using my full name online. I stopped meeting people from apps entirely. Weeks passed, then months. Things slowly quieted down, but the feeling never fully left. The sense that my information had been copied and set loose, that someone out there still had it saved somewhere, maybe waiting. Sometimes I replay the moment and wonder how he moved so fast. How practiced it felt. Like this was not the first time he had done it. Like he knew exactly when to lean in, exactly how to frame it as safety. I still carry my eye if I have to, but now I guard it like it is fragile. I do not take it out unless absolutely necessary. I do not show it to anyone outside official situations. I do not let anyone frame their fear as a reason to collect my identity. The worst part is how small the moment was. Just a click. Less than a second. That was all it took. I did not realize the date was already over until my own name appeared on her screen, glowing between notifications that had nothing to do with me. It was one of those moments where your brain refuses to connect the dots at first, like it thinks this has to be a coincidence because the alternative is too weird to accept. I remember blinking at her phone, then blinking again, like maybe my eyes were just tired. We matched on a dating app late one night when I could not sleep. Nothing dramatic about it. Her profile was low effort in a way that felt honest. Bad lighting, casual captions, nothing trying too hard. She messaged first and kept things light. We joked about how awkward first dates usually were. She said she hated wasting time and preferred to know quickly if something clicked. I liked that. It felt direct. We agreed to meet at a small bar near a record store. Not loud, not quiet, just background noise enough to fill the gaps. I got there early and picked a table near the window. When she arrived, she looked exactly like her photos, which already put me at ease. She smiled, sat down, ordered without looking at the menu like she had been there 100 times. The first part of the date was fine. Normal. We talked about work, about the city, about dumb stuff we both found annoying. She laughed easily. She checked her phone more than I liked, but I told myself that was just nerves. Everyone does it now. I did not want to be the guy who polishes phone use on a first date. About an hour in, I noticed her typing longer messages. Not quick replies. Full blocks of text. She angled her phone slightly away from me, but not enough. I was not trying to look. It just happened when she leaned back and the screen caught the light. I saw my name. Not just once. Multiple times. My full name, spelled correctly, dropped into a paragraph like it belonged there. My stomach flipped. My first thought was that she was texting a friend about the date. That felt normal enough. People do that. Then I noticed the tone. The message was heavy. Long. The kind of thing you write when you are ending something, not describing it. Words about distance, about not feeling the same anymore, about it being better to stop now than drag it out. I felt heat rush up my neck as I read just enough to understand what it was. It was a breakup message. And it was not for me. I know that because the details were wrong. References to time spent together that had not happened. Shared jokes I did not recognize. A memory about a place I had never been with her. But the name was mine. My name was being used like a placeholder. She finished typing and hit send before I could look away. The phone buzzed softly. She locked the screen but set it face down like nothing happened. Then she looked up at me and smiled, ready to jump back into the conversation. I felt dizzy. My heart was beating faster than it should have for a bar date. I tried to process what I had just seen without jumping to conclusions. Maybe it was a draft. Maybe it was a weird coincidence. Maybe she reused messages and forgot to change the name. All of those explanations felt thin, but my brain grabbed onto them anyway. She asked me something about my job. I answered, but my voice sounded far away to my own ears. I kept thinking about that message traveling to someone else's phone, carrying my name with it. What would that person think? What would they assume about me? A few minutes later, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, frowned slightly, then typed another message quickly. I did not see the screen this time, but I did not need to. My chest felt tight, like I was sitting in a room where something important was happening just out of sight. I finally asked if everything was okay. She said yes, too quickly. She said just handling something. Then she laughed and said dating was complicated. That laugh felt off, like it came a beat too late. I asked her how many people she was seeing. Not accusing, just curious. She shrugged and said she'd like to keep her options open until something felt real. I nodded, even though my stomach dropped further. That still did not explain why my name was being used to end something with someone else. I tried to joke about it, saying I thought I saw my name on her phone earlier. Her smile froze for half a second. Then she laughed again, louder this time, and said I must have imagined it. She said names blur together sometimes. That answer did not land. Names do not blur together when they belong to real people sitting across from you. The rest of the date dragged. Conversation felt forced. Every time her phone buzzed, I tensed. I kept imagining someone out there reading a breakup message signed with my name, building a version of me that did not exist. When we finally stood up to leave, she hugged me like everything was normal. She said we should do this again. I said maybe because I did not know what else to say. I walked home feeling hollow, replaying the moment over and over. That night, I opened the app and checked her profile. Still active. New photos added. Her bio slightly changed. I scrolled through our chat, looking for clues. She had used my name a lot in messages, more than most people do. It felt intentional now, like practice. The next morning, I got a message from a number I did not recognize. It said my name, followed by a question about why I had disappeared so suddenly. My chest went cold. I asked who it was. They replied with a name I did not know and said we had been seeing each other for months. I told them there had to be a mistake. They sent a screenshot. It was the breakup message, the one I had seen her send. My name all over it, framed as if I were the one ending things. The timestamp matched the moment she had been sitting across from me, smiling, drinking, pretending everything was fine. I felt sick. I explained that I had never met them, that I had been on a date with her when the message was sent. They did not believe me at first. Why would they? The proof they had showed me as the villain. Distant, careless, done. It took a long conversation, screenshots, and shared confusion before they realized what had happened. She had been using my name interchangeably, copying and pasting, slotting it in wherever it fit. They told me she had done this before, broken things off with people using the wrong name, then blaming stress or autocorrect. They said they always brushed it off as a mistake. Until now. I blocked her everywhere. Unmatched. Reported the account. I did not know what category to choose because there was no option for identity confusion or name theft by carelessness. A few days later, another message came in. Different number. Same tone. Same confusion. Another person who had received a message signed with my name. Another cleanup. Another explanation. I realized then that my name had become a tool for her, something she could attach to endings she did not want to own, something disposable. Nothing legally bad happened. No threats, no stalking. Just this quiet spread of my name into stories I had nothing to do with. People associating me with her I never caused. I started using a shortened version of my name on apps after that, then a nickname, then just initials. I stopped meeting people who seemed too comfortable too fast. I paid attention to how often someone said my name, like they were testing it in their mouth. Sometimes I still think about how casual it was for her, how she could sit across from me and end something else entirely, dragging me into it without asking, how easy it was to copy and paste a person. I never saw her again. Her profile disappeared eventually. Maybe she moved on. Maybe she changed names again. I still live with the echo of it sometimes, wondering where else my name landed without me knowing. The moment I realized I was stuck was not when he raised his voice or blocked a door. It was when my phone refreshed and the little car icon disappeared, like it had never been there at all. 1 second I had a way home. The next second I was standing on a sidewalk with a dead plan and a guy smiling like he had just done me a favor. We matched on a dating app during a week where I was trying to prove to myself that I was not letting past weird dates ruin future ones. His profile leaned hard into being considerate. He talked about protecting people, about emotional awareness, about how men should do better. It felt safe in that curated way, like he knew exactly what words made someone lower their guard. Our messages were thoughtful but intense. He liked to analyze feelings, break down moments, explain why people reacted the way they did. I thought it meant he was emotionally mature. Now I know it meant he liked control dressed up as care. We met at a restaurant near the river, one of those places that looks romantic at night but empties out fast. I took a rideshare there because parking was awful and I did not want him knowing what I drove or where I parked. He offered to pick me up and I said no, joking it off. He did not push, but he did mention that he liked knowing people got home safe. The date started fine. Food was good. Conversation was okay. Not amazing, not bad. Then the tone shifted slowly. He started commenting on how I reacted to things, how I leaned back when I disagreed, how my tone changed when I talked about work. It felt like being watched instead of listened to. I pushed back a little, telling him he was overthinking it. He smiled and said emotions always showed up in the body before the words. That line made my skin crawl, but I stayed polite. By the time dessert came, I knew I was done. I felt tired in that specific way where you want to be home, not arguing, not explaining. I checked my phone and ordered a rideshare while he was in the bathroom. The car was 6 minutes away. I felt relieved seeing it on the screen. When he came back, I told him I was heading out soon. His face changed, not angry, just tight. He asked why I was leaving early. I said I was not feeling it. Simple. Honest. I expected annoyance. I did not expect what came next. He said it worried him that I was leaving upset. I said I was not upset, just ready to go. He said that was not how it looked to him. He said it was unsafe for me to leave in that state. I laughed because it sounded ridiculous. I told him my ride was already on the way. That was when he leaned forward and glanced at my phone screen. I did not realize until later that I had placed my phone face up on the table. I did not realize he had been watching closely enough to recognize the app interface. He said he wanted to make sure I was okay. He reached out like he was going to slide my phone back toward me. Then his thumb moved fast. Too fast. My screen flickered. The car icon disappeared. My stomach dropped. I stared at my phone, refreshing it, thinking it was a glitch. Nothing came back. The app showed no active ride, no driver, nothing. I looked up at him. He was calm, too calm. He said he canceled it. He said it was not a good idea for me to leave while emotional. He said drivers could take advantage of that. My heart started pounding. I told him he had no right to do that. He said he was looking out for me. He said I could order another one later when I felt better. I stood up immediately. I grabbed my bag so hard my knuckles hurt. I told him I was leaving. He stayed seated, watching me like this was all playing out exactly how he expected. Outside, the night air felt sharp. The restaurant was nearly empty now. Streetlights reflected off the water, pretty in a way that made everything feel unreal. I reopened the app and tried to order another ride. It would not let me. A message popped up saying my last ride was canceled due to a safety concern and that I needed to wait before requesting another. My chest tightened. I did not know if that was normal or something he had flagged. I started walking toward the main road, phone in hand, trying to figure out my options. I could call a friend, but it was late. I could walk, but it was far and dark. I felt exposed in a way that made my skin buzz. He followed me out of the restaurant. Not close, not grabbing. Just a few steps behind, like a shadow I could not shake. He said he was worried about me walking alone. He said it would be better if I stayed and talked until I calmed down. I told him to stop following me. He slowed but did not stop. He said he could not just let me go like this. He said the app even encouraged people to make sure dates got home safe. He framed it like policy, like he was obligated. I stopped walking and turned around, putting space between us. I told him loudly that I did not want his help. A couple across the street glanced over. That was enough to make him pause. He sighed like I was exhausting him. He said I was twisting his intentions. He said he just wanted to make sure nothing bad happened. I pulled my phone up and called a friend, putting it on speaker without saying anything. I'd just let it ring. His posture changed immediately. Shoulders back, hands up slightly. He said he would step away. He walked back toward the restaurant, not fast, not slow. I watched until he disappeared inside. My friend answered and I finally breathed. I told her where I was. She ordered a ride for me from her account. It took longer than it should have. Every car that passed made my heart jump. When the ride finally arrived, I got in and locked the door immediately. I watched the restaurant through the back window as we pulled away. He did not come back out. Later that night, when I got home to my apartment where I live, my phone buzzed. A message from him saying he hoped I got home safely and that he was sorry I misunderstood his concern. Misunderstood. That word sat heavy. I blocked him, unmatched, reported the account, though I did not know which option fit canceling someone's ride without permission. None of them felt right. The next day, I checked the rideshare app. There was a note on my account about a canceled trip due to rider distress. That phrase made my stomach turn. Distressed, like he had labeled me. I contacted support and explained what happened. They removed the note after a long back and forth, but the damage was done. Someone else had been allowed to interfere with my ability to leave. I replayed the night in my head over and over, how quickly he acted, how confident he was that he knew better than me, how safety had been used as a leash. Nothing else happened after that. He did not contact me again. He did not show up anywhere, which almost made it worse because it meant he got exactly what he wanted from that moment. Control without consequence. Now, I never let anyone see my screen when I order a ride. I never place my phone face up on a table. I never assume help is help just because it sounds gentle. Sometimes danger does not look like anger. Sometimes it looks like someone canceling your way out and telling you it is for your own good. I found out I was content before I found out I was uncomfortable, which sounds backwards but makes sense now. The first clue was a notification from a stranger thanking me for being a great example of what not to do. I stared at my phone, half awake, trying to remember if I had posted something dumb the night before. I had not. The message included a link. I did not click it yet. I already knew it was about me. We matched on a dating app during a stretch where I was saying yes to more things than I should have. Her profile felt sharp and self-assured. She talked about growth, boundaries, patterns. She said she was into learning from real moments instead of theory. That sounded grounded. I liked the idea of someone who thought deeply without turning everything into a lecture. Our messages were fast but thoughtful. She asked questions that felt slightly pointed, like she was nudging me toward topics instead of letting them come out naturally. I did not mind. It felt like she cared about substance. When we planned to meet, she suggested a casual spot with open seating and bright lighting. I picked the time. She picked the place. The date started normal. Coffee, pastries, background noise. She was friendly but observant. She leaned back a lot, watching my face while I talked, like she was trying to catch something subtle. I noticed her phone on the table, screen down but close to her hand. That felt normal. Everyone does that. About 20 minutes in, she started steering the conversation into awkward territory. Not offensive, just uncomfortable. Questions about jealousy. Reactions to hypothetical situations. How I handled being corrected in public. I answered honestly, even when it felt clumsy. I laughed at myself a couple times. She smiled, but it did not quite reach her eyes. Every now and then she would pick up her phone and angle it slightly, like she was checking notifications. I did not realize until later that the camera lens was facing me. I thought nothing of it. People scroll. People multitask. Then she did something small but deliberate. She made an assumption about me that was not true, not cruel, just wrong. I corrected her gently. She nodded, then repeated the assumption anyway, phrased slightly differently. I felt myself hesitate, then respond again, slower this time. She picked up her phone again. My body reacted before my brain did. I felt my shoulders tighten. My words came out more careful. She leaned forward, asking me to explain why it bothered me. I did. She nodded, eyes focused, phone still in hand. The pattern repeated. She would say something that put me slightly on edge. Wait, watch, then adjust. Each time, my reactions got more visible. A pause, a breath, a forced smile, a hand rubbing the back of my neck. I thought it was just being awkward on a first date. Near the end, she asked how I felt about being filmed in public spaces. I said I did not love it, but understood it happened. She smiled and said that was honest. Then she suggested we wrap up. She said she had gotten what she needed for the day. That sentence stuck with me, but I did not question it. I paid for my coffee and left, feeling oddly drained. Not bad, just used up. A few days later, that message came in from the stranger. I clicked the link. It was a video compilation, vertical format, captions overlaid in bold text, a familiar cafe background. My face cropped close. The title framed it as dating advice, something about spotting fragile reactions early. The account name belonged to her. I watched with my heart pounding. The clips were short, chopped, rearranged. Moments where I paused were labeled as insecurity. Moments where I corrected her were labeled as defensiveness. A clip of me laughing nervously was slowed down and tagged as avoidance. None of the context was there. None of the lead up. Just reactions, isolated and framed. The comments were worse. People dissecting me like a case study, some supportive of her, some mocking me. A few recognized the cafe and joked about spotting me there. I felt sick, not embarrassed exactly. Violated, like my faith had been borrowed to prove a point I never agreed to argue. I checked her account. Dozens of videos like this. Different men, different places, the same format. Uncomfortable moments turned into lessons. She had a link in her bio to a subscription page offering deeper breakdowns. Monetized, organized, intentional. I scrolled through older posts and recognized the pattern. She would engineer discomfort, record the reaction, then explain it as evidence. Her captions talked about empowerment and awareness. Her clips talked louder. I messaged her, asking if that was me in the video. She replied quickly, saying yes, and thanked me for being authentic. She said it helped people learn. She said it was anonymous. Anonymous did not mean faceless. My face was right there. I told her I did not consent to being recorded or published. She said recording in public was allowed. She said the content was educational. She said she never used my name. I asked her to take it down. She said she could blur my face in future uploads, but could not remove what was already posted because people had paid for access. She said she needed to be fair to her audience. Audience, like I was a prop. I reported the video. The platform responded with a generic note about public spaces and transformative content. No violation found. The video stayed up. Over the next week, more messages came in. Strangers commenting on my reactions. One person sent me a clip asking if I wanted feedback. Another asked if I was okay. I stopped opening my messages. I tried to avoid the cafe, but it was near my work. I started taking a longer route instead. I felt stupid for changing my routine, but the idea of being recognized made my chest tighten. She posted a follow-up video using another clip from our date. This time, she froze my face mid-blink and labeled it emotional shutdown. I reported it again, same result. Friends sent me links trying to be helpful. I asked them to stop. Seeing it made my stomach drop every time. I stopped scrolling altogether for a while. I thought about legal options. I talked to someone who told me it would be complicated. Public space, educational framing, fair use arguments. All the words that turn a person into a problem instead of a priority. Eventually, the clip sank lower in the feed. New content replaced me. The internet moved on, but I did not. I still catch myself monitoring my reactions now, smoothing my face, controlling pauses, wondering who's recording and why. The idea that someone could provoke a response and sell it as advice changed how I show up around strangers. I unmatched her and blocked her everywhere, but that did not erase the videos. They are still out there, floating, teaching lessons built on my discomfort. I did not do anything wrong on that date. I was just human in small, visible ways. That was enough. The smile is what stuck. Not the words, not the way he stood there with his hands folded like he was waiting for a response. Just the smile. Small, neat, satisfied. It followed me down the block like a fingerprint I could not wipe off. I was still replaying it when my phone buzzed, and that is when I realized the night was not done with me yet. I matched with him on a weeknight when I was killing time between assignments. Thumb sore from swiping, brain half checked out. His profile looked calm. Not flashy, not intense. He talked about structure and goals and accountability, which sounded adult in a way that made me feel like I was making progress just by matching with him. I remember thinking he seemed like someone who had his life organized into folders. Our messages were polite and measured. He asked questions in a way that felt intentional, like he was following a checklist, but trying not to make it obvious. Where I preferred to sit in public places, whether I trusted my instincts or logic more. How I handled conflict. Nothing outright strange, just oddly framed. I answered honestly because I did not see a reason not to. We met at a cafe that doubled as a co-working space, lots of laptops, quiet music, people pretending not to listen. It felt neutral, safe. He arrived early and picked a table near the wall. When I sat down, he adjusted his chair slightly, aligning himself across from me like a mirror. The date itself was fine. Not great, not terrible. He listened closely, nodded often, asked follow-ups that showed he had paid attention. Sometimes he would pause before responding, like he was choosing between options. It made me a little self-conscious, like I was being graded on tone instead of content. About halfway through, He asked me a question that felt heavier than the rest. Something about boundaries and how I enforced them when people pushed. I gave him an example from work. He smiled and wrote something down in a small notebook he had brought. I laughed, assuming it was a joke. He did not explain it. As the night went on, he introduced small moments of friction. Nothing rude. Just little tests, I realize now. He interrupted once to see if I would keep talking. He disagreed with me lightly to see how I reacted. He checked his phone while I was speaking, then looked up to see if I noticed. I did notice. I did not say anything. I remember feeling tired in a specific way, like I was performing even though I did not know the script. When I checked the time and said I needed to head out, he nodded like he had expected it. We stood up, gathered our things, and walked toward the door together. Outside, the night air felt cooler than I expected. I turned to say goodbye, already mentally closing the file on the date. That is when he smiled and said I passed. Not joking, not playful. Just a statement delivered like feedback. My brain stalled. I asked what he meant, but he did not elaborate. He said it was good to meet someone who understood the process. Then he wished me a safe walk home. I walked away with my shoulders tight, replaying it. Past what? Process for what? The words felt wrong in my head, like a sentence missing context. I told myself it was just his weird humor. Some people are awkward. Some people say strange things. 2 blocks later, my phone buzzed. It was the app. A notification saying my account had been restricted due to a violation of community standards. My stomach dropped. I opened it immediately. The screen loaded slowly, then displayed a message saying my profile was under review and my access was limited. I stopped walking and leaned against a building, heart racing, limited how. I clicked around. My matches were gone. My messages were locked. My profile photo was blurred. A timer appeared saying review in progress. I thought it had to be a glitch. Bad timing. Coincidence. I restarted the app, same screen. Another notification came in, this time an email. Subject line about safety and integrity. It said my account had been permanently restricted due to credible reports. Credible. That word made my chest tighten. I scrolled, looking for details. There were none, just a link to appeal. I appealed immediately, fingers shaking. I wrote that I had done nothing wrong, that I had just left a date, that there must be a mistake. I hit send and waited. Nothing happened. I walked home in a fog, the city feeling unreal around me. Cars passed. People laughed. My phone stayed heavy in my hand. When I got back to my apartment where I live, I locked the door and sat on the floor, refreshing my email like it might change its mind. The appeal response came faster than I expected. Automated. Polite. Final. After review, the decision would not be reversed. I stared at the words until they stopped making sense. Permanently restricted. No explanation. No examples. No conversation. I thought about the date, the notebook, the questions, the tests, the smile. I searched my email for his name. Nothing. I opened the app again, hoping maybe his profile was still visible. It was gone. Not unmatched, gone. I felt a cold realization settle in. He had reported me. Not in a normal way. Not as retaliation for rejection, as a result. I did not sleep much that night. My brain kept replaying the moments where I could have failed without knowing. The interruption. The disagreement. The way I did not call out the phone check. Was that what he wanted? Was that what he flagged? The next day, I tried creating a new account with a different email. It was blocked instantly. Device restriction. It flagged. Done. I searched online for similar stories. Buried threads. Vague complaints. People saying their accounts vanished after dates that felt like interviews. Comments speculating about users with high trust scores who could fast-track reports. Nothing concrete. Nothing helpful. I messaged a friend who used the app and asked if my profile showed up for her. It did not. She asked what happened. I did not know how to explain it without sounding paranoid. A few days later, a mutual acquaintance sent me a screenshot. A post in a private group about dating safety. A blurred photo of a woman, my hair, my jacket. A caption warning about boundary issues and non-compliance during screening. Screening. The post did not name me. It did not need to. The comments praised the person who submitted it for doing the work, for protecting the community, for filtering effectively. I felt sick. My face was not visible, but my outline was. My posture, the cafe background. Anyone who knew me well enough could guess. I tried reporting the post. It was declined. Private group. Community guidelines. I realized then how clean the system was, how little it needed to destroy access. One report from the right person. One narrative framed as safety. One smile at the end of a date. Weeks passed. I adjusted. I used other apps. Some worked. Some did not. I kept my guard up. I paid attention to language more than actions. Words like process, framework, criteria. Sometimes I wondered if I really had passed the test of being useful to him, past the threshold where reporting me added value. The restriction never lifted. The app never explained. I never got my account back. What messed with me most was how fast it happened, how his words lined up perfectly with the timing, how control did not require threats or shouting or even anger, just access and confidence. I still go to that cafe sometimes. I sit at different tables. I notice notebooks now. I notice pauses. I notice smiles that feel too measured. I did not know I was being evaluated. I did not know I was a checkbox. I did not know passing still meant losing.